Hello. Hello. Happy Sunday. Hello, hello. I'm back. I hope you guys have been having a good weekend. Can you guys see me and hear me okay? Are we all good? Are we all good in the hood? What is going on? Happy Sunday. Hello, hello. Been waiting for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are back with Kenzie reading. I was really tired, but I figured we could come on here and have some fun. So let me say hi to everyone. Thank you for being here. Please make sure you hit the like button on your way in. I would greatly appreciate that. We are in July text messages for Kenzie and Dom. We're going to pick up right where we left off one live ago, which was 2 days ago. Let me see who's here. And then we'll get started. I see Debbie. I see Drakey, Evie's abuelitas. Hi, Tails Mom. Hi, Psycho Nerd. We'll be listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Evie says we are ready. Hey, Het Chappers. Hi, Angel Eyes. Good to see everyone. I hope you, and Ramon, I hope you guys have had a good weekend. I have. I got to spend some time with my family, so that was nice. Let's get started. Let me pull up the text messages. Hold, please. Let's do this. Okay, so we left off on July 2nd. Hey, Will, what up? We left off on July 2nd. Let me go back to see what was going on. Okay, so they had just hung out. And by the way, guys, I do have a Kenzie and Dom text playlist, and then I have a Kenzie case playlist, and then I have Kenzie calls no commentary jail calls playlist. So definitely make sure you check out the playlist. Okay, wait, let me see, where was I? Okay, so he said I was about to smoke a blunt with Smeesh. She says, oh, okay, after, if I'm still up, when you're up, let me come over. 100% let me. I want to hang out in the day for once. She emphasizes, I want to hang out in the day for once. Wait, I thought we already read this part. No? Okay, yeah, so it turned into, it was midnight. And then it jumps to 7:02 in the morning, my bad. I want to hang out in the day for once, she says, on July 2nd, 2020 at 10:49 a.m. She emphasizes that. I want it to be before it gets dark. Dom says, I just woke up and got shit to do. Kenzie says, how much? Dom says, I don't know. Kenzie says, well, I want to hang out during the day, Dom. And that was at 11:39 a.m. And then she says, babe, can I get 7 for $65? Good. The gas. Answer ASAP. Dom says, why? She says, we need bud, question mark, question mark. Me, Morgan, and Lexi. We each have 20. Dom says, so give you all 20 bags? Kenzie says, well, no, we're putting our money together than smoking today. We're putting our money together than smoking out today. At the end of the day, we're splitting up the bud. Dom says, I'll just give you all 20 bags, make it easier. She said, that's fine. But we is 60 cool. Is 60 cool? He says, yeah. She says, okay, yay. Put a little more in my bag, though, LOL. I'll give you extra 5 if you want. He says, that's why I was making them all separate. She said, you're so sweet, babe. He said, LOL. He says, just bring your pill bottle. She says, LOL, I will. He says, when are you coming? She says, we're getting food, then dropping off baby, then coming. He says, probably dropping it to your mom, huh? Kenzie says, hell nah. I'm not letting her use me for my mom anymore. She's going to Morgan's. Dom says, bet. She says, yeah, for real. We're coming soon, she says. You about to be ready? Like, are you home? Dom says, okay, just wait outside when you're here. She says, me? Question mark. I can't come in. Can't I just come in and bring everything out? I want to come in. Babe, answer. Dom says, okay, you can come in real quick. She says, okay, yay. And then she says, can we come in? Can we come right now? We're on the way. He says, yeah, you should have been here. She says, what do you mean? And that's at 1:55 p.m. And then at 2:19 p.m., she says, that was a nice wood, babe. And then she says, I'm low-key annoyed. We still haven't been to the beach yet. They taking so long. We're hanging when I'm back. Also, text back fast. No response. She emphasizes her message. Babe, I'm about to be home, she says at 7:01 p.m. Still got to shower real quick, though. Dom says, I'm home. You can come over when you're done. I have to shower, too. She says, okay, I'm about to be ready to come. He says, okay, baby, make sure you look cute. She says, I will. He says, maybe we can go out to eat. She says, should I wear a dress then? Bae? He says, yes. She says, okay, I will. I'm going to bring it, though, because I'm going to walk over or ride a bike, LOL. Dom says, okay, LOL, LOL, okay, I could pick you up real quick. She says, okay, come scoop. I'll change before we go. I still look really cute, though. Dom says, when? She says, right now. Want me to start walking? He says, yeah, me and Smeesh hooping and smoking. She says, I'm walking. Save some wood for me. He says, it's not a moon. It's not a wood. It's moon rocks. She says, I want. At 8:05 p.m. Then at 11 p.m., she says, I really miss you, Dom. Sad face. I'm really upset right now. I don't know what her problem is. She sees him every single day. What does she mean she misses him? She constantly harasses him. Hey, Nemo sign. Hey, Alicia, good to see you. Hey, Ruth. We are morbid and Mellyverse. Yeah, we are. We're morbid. I'm shocked at how she was going to call her mom to ring. I know. We just started, Alicia. You're fine. Hi, Lala. Good to see you, love. She says, I'm really upset right now. She says, I hope you're all good too, but like try to please give me more time, babe. It's important to me. No response. She says, I want your attention and I want you to text me a lot and shit. Like, I know you don't have the time, but if you really care, you will make the time because I always make time for you. Dom says, okay, babe. He says, meat fest, by the way. She says, what do you mean? And who's all there? Is it fun? She says, please make it up to me. Dom says, I'll tell you later, bunch of dudes. She says, no response. Next morning at 9:21 a.m. I hate when shit like that happens because when I get home and get the worst night's sleep of my life. I hope you keep your word and actually let me come early because I feel like that's not going to happen. No response. Do your shit fast AF I'm going to Crocker Park with Kristen, and right when I get back from that, we're hanging out. Dom says, what are you doing? She says, waiting for Kristen. After I leave Crocker, I'm gonna come over though. He says, I just woke up at 12. She says, how was your night? Were y'all drinking? Dom says, went and smoked, then left. Kenzie says, for real? Dom says, no, only person who drank was George by himself. Kenzie says, LMFAO. What a FAG. Dom says, he can't smoke. Kenzie says, but also, if you just went to smoke, I feel like I could have stayed at your house till you were back. LOL. And why not? Dom says, he's going to army. That's exactly what I was going to do. That's what he said we were going to do. Kenzie says, George Graham? Oh, and I should have stayed. And want me to get you anything from Crocker? If I see anything cool? Dom says, underwear. She says, okay. He says, slides. That's at 12:39 p.m. Then he says, sup, effers. Who's he saying that to? Kenzie and her friends? She sends a video. Dom says, it's all dark. She says, watch the video. Dom says, I did. Is it you beating up Maddie? Kenzie says, babe, after Crocker, me and Kristen going to Kyle's. You have to come. Okay, babe. He says, okay, babe. She says, we're here at 3:57 p.m. He says, bet I'll come soon. She says, okay. 4:19, she says, where you at, baby? Come. Then it jumps to the next day at 10:20 a.m. Morning, babe. When you're up, add me back. I have to show you like 6 outfits and they're all saved on Snap. You said you would call me back, by the way. 11:58 a.m. When are we hanging? Doesn't respond until, and then it jumps to 9:57 p.m. Bring sparklers up. Come up here, please. Oh, it's 4th of July. Okay, I didn't catch on to that. Oh, thank you, Tia Marie. Hey, Babelet, thanks for reading these. Oh, I know. Thank you for your super chat, Tia Marie. I appreciate you. I know it does make our blood boil. I agree. I appreciate you, Tia. Let's continue. She says, I just saw that. She says, come up here, please. Okay, so it's 4th of July. John is here. She says, come up. Babe, how long you gonna be in there? I might go sit outside. I'm going right now. Oh, wait. It jumps to the next day. She says, come up. And then at 1:17 p.m. on the 5th, she says, babe, how long you gonna be in there? I might go sit outside. She says, I'm going right now. Dom says, okay, babe, if you can put some stuff away, like the eggs and stuff. Kenzie says, yes. Are you done with your food? Dom said, I guess so. Kenzie said, so yes, because I'm gonna clean up the plates. Dom says, yeah. She says, someone is here. Black car. Dom says, can you give them 20 G's? Kenzie said, yes. How much? Money. And what color? Dom says 400. He'll be straight. He's cool. He's not going to rip you. Kenzie said, what colors, babe? He says, and I have most of. She says, yellow, red. Dom says, yeah. He says, you? She said, should I just go to the window or get in? Dom says, no, just wait a sec. I'll give it to him. She says, I have them. She says, I'm in the kitchen. Dom said, okay, give them to me in a sec. She says, are you sure you just don't want me to? Dom said, if you want to. Kenzie said, I don't really care. Dom says, just get in back seat. Kenzie says, I want to sit outside. She says, okay. Dom said, he's chill. She says, I did it. Dom says, okay, LMAO. Kenzie said, who's the plug now? Yeah, well, there you go. You were participating in it too, Kenzie. So I don't want to hear you're complaining on the phone calls. Oh my God, I wasn't doing anything. Dom was making me. Remember that call with her mom? No, Kenzie. It sounds like you were doing it willingly. She said, who's the plug now? Exclamation mark ×2. Dom says, can you put change of underwear in your bag for me? Kenzie says, yeah, babe. He says, and can you find 2 towels? Kenzie said, yes. She says, the next day on the 6th at 10:44 a.m., babe, is your stomach effed? Dom said, no, mine is okay right now. Kenzie said, bruh, mine was so effed this morning, like super bad. Dom says, really? Probably that corn. Kenzie said, LMFAO, probably not. I don't know what it was. My tummy was cramping so bad. Dom says, what are you doing today, babe? At 12:09. She says, you want me to bring you a funnel cake? She says, I'm going to the food truck, then going home. Dom says, I'm about to run places with Smeesh. I'm okay, babe. She says, I'm at 808, shaved ice. I'm getting butter beer, icy. About to smack. I'm about to post, like, and comment, baby. No response. Babe, should I make the caption, quote unquote, hot out, bitch, I walk it out? Or, quote unquote, this is jetpack. This is not a wave. I don't get it. Is that supposed to be cool? Because I'm confused. What does that mean? This a jetpack. This is not a wave. Hot out, bitch, I walk it out. Anyways, Dom says, I like the other one better. Kenzie said, the TK one. I was trying to shine like some mother effing glitter. LOL. Dom says, yeah. She says, LOL. Do you know what the song, the wee lyrics from? Dom said, is it Saran? Kenzie said, no, not that one. The other two. Dom says, J the youngin and foreign J. Kenzie says, nope, foreign J. I hate the first guy. It's swaggin' everywhere single. Dom says, oh yeah, they both the same song, LMAO. Kenzie says, LMFAO. So do the TK one? Dom says, I don't know, whatever one you want. Kenzie says, I don't know what one. Lexi said the jetpack one. What one fits the pick better? No response. What are you doing, babe? At 5:50 p.m. What? Why? I don't think she should pick either one. I think they're both dumb for her IG selfie. She couldn't make a single decision. No, she can't. You're right. She always needs someone's approval, either Dom's or her friends or her mom. Oh, is that what it is? That Walk It Out song? I must have missed that. Okay. She says, what are you doing, babe, at 5:50 p.m.? He says, me and Angelo just went to the Ohio Dispo. She says, LMAO, for real? What did y'all get? Can we hang for a little? Dom says, when and he got Bud. She says, like soon. I'm night swimming tonight. Maybe you can come. Dom said, where? Why don't you swim right now? It's hot. She says, Kristen's pool, and she's working. Dom said, oh. She says, we can go swimming if you want somewhere, or we can hang and hoop if you want to do that. Dom says, nah, I'm chilling with Angelo and got sales. She says, can I do sales with you? It's cool if not. We can just hang another time if you're really busy. No response. Send video of the dispo shit, though. Dom says, I will. And no, I'm about to dip. She says, oh, okay, baby. She says, dabs? Question mark. Could I get some then dip or kick it for a little bit? She says. Dom says, I just got home. What are you doing now? She says, just chilling right now. Dom said, are you at your house? Kenzie says, yeah, at 8:06 p.m. I don't know if Kristen's going to hit me up. I'm bored. Dom says, you can probably come over. She says, right now? Babe, he says, I don't know. Me and Angelo and Smeesh might play zombies. She says, I need dabs. Drop some off. So what's the move? She says at 9:35 p.m. He says, we're smoking the wood, then we're going to play zombies. Kenzie says, I can't sleep at 3:25 a.m. She says, my room is really uncomfortable lately. Dom says, why is that, babe? On the 7th at 10:01 a.m. She says, I don't know. I just can't sleep good at all. Like I get really uncomfortable and wake up in the middle of the night. Then I keep waking up. I don't know why you just stopped talking, but okay. No response. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Dom says, I can't hear you. She says, LOL, babe, did your phone die? Or are you on the phone with someone else? Oh, so she called. She says, it was FaceTime. She says, just FaceTime me back, babe. Dom says, no, I don't know what was happening. Kenzie says, oh, what do you mean? Was my phone being effed up? When are you going to be free, babe? Can we hang soon? She says at 2:28 p.m. Dom says, me and Kyle still holding hands? He says, me and Kyle still holding hands. Kenzie says, when are you leaving Kyle's? After you leave, can you just scoop? Dom says, I've only been here like 20 minutes, but yeah, I could probably, depends what I have to do. Kenzie says, okay, please scoop. Dom says, okay, it depends if this dude messages me back. She says, so when are you going to leave? At 3:24 p.m. Dom says, I'm waiting on a homie to come to Strongsville, so you couldn't come by till after, even if I was home. She says, well, how long till you get home? And can you scoop after? He says, at least 5, said he's going to be here by 5. Dom says, yeah. She says, at least 5, and we can't hang out before? Dom said, we can't. Kenzie said, that's literally 2 hours later. I really don't see why I can't come over before 5. That's gay AF. Dom says, okay. Kenzie says, why are you just saying okay? I don't know why you just shut down when I ask questions. For real. No response. Kenzie says, question mark, question mark. LOL, WTF. Dom says, you don't know what's going on. Also, I can't really see either, so I'm not trying to be on my phone. Kenzie says, how about you tell me what's going on? And then instead of just saying okay or ignoring me then, question mark. Dom says, okay, we can chill tomorrow then. She says, WTF, question mark, question mark. Why the F do you do that? No response. So you would rather be rude AF than answer my questions when I'm not even being a bitch? Like that's for real so frustrating. You said we could hang today and just because I have a question about that guy is taking more than 2 hours doesn't mean you could just shut down and be disrespectful to me. Dom says cuz you don't understand. Kenzie says I do understand actually. If you're busy doing shit then tell me and I'll leave you alone. Like stop acting like I'm dumb, Dom. Like now I'm annoyed AF. No response. She says at 4:15 p.m. Why do you always have to do the most childish thing you could possibly do? Like, holy shit. No response. She emphasizes her message. And now you pretending you can't see my texts and my calls? You're rude AF. Dom says, look, I won't have the dude come by no more, okay? And I'm going to chill with you in a little. She says, what's a little to you? Like, how much longer am I going to be waiting for you to finally let me come over? Like, I'm mad because you're ignoring me and being rude. And you're still ignoring me. Shake my effing head. I'm so salty right now. No response. She says, holy shit, it's been a little and you still can't even text me back. Like, what is happening? Dom says, I'm eating in my eyes. She says, you can still read? Holy shit. Like, I shouldn't have to do this much to get you to answer. Like, I've been so effing mad all day because of this shit. You said I could come in a little and it's been 30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes. Like, I don't know why Dom's giving in her here. Like, okay, I won't hang out with my friend. It's been 30 minutes and it's 5:05 p.m. Like, they still have all evening to hang out. She says, it's been 30 minutes. He says, okay, and? She says, what the F you mean, okay, and? Like, are you still trying to make me flip the F out? No response from Dom. When are you going to stop being a dick? When are you going to let me come over, Dom? I love how you answer ASAP. I answer ASAP and you take 10 plus minutes every time. No response. What the F is your issue? No response. Dom, it's literally been an hour. I love getting treated like shit. Thanks for making me feel like you don't care. And you're not the only person treating me like shit today. So I'm having a really bad day. She emphasizes her message. She always says that. She's like, I'm having a really bad day. Because you never leave him alone. I know. She's so rude. Dom says, okay. she sends like 10 messages. He's like, okay. Kenzie says, so you're not going to ask why I'm having a bad day? Cool, she says. Remember, do not ignore me at 6:13 p.m. She says, I still need dabs. Dom says, okay, I got them. She says, okay, thanks, babe. Text me when you're ready to hang. Dom says, okay, at 6:34 p.m. She says, how long you thinking though? Dude, literally 6:49. So 14 minutes later, Dom emphasized her message. Dom says, like an hour. She says, okay, please try to be fast. She says at 7:26, congrats, babe. You should call your mama real quick. You're going to be happy AF. She emphasizes her own message. Dom says, okay. She says, also, you going to be done soon? She said, that was quick. Well, are you home? Dom says, on the way. Why did she say that? You should tell your mom. Was she being sarcastic? Huh. Tell his mom what? He says, on the way. She says, can you scoop me? He says, yeah, at 8:01 p.m. She says, how far are you? He says, progress. She says, okay, bet. He says, here. She says, okay, bet. And that's at 8:07 p.m. Then at 1 in the morning, she says, if you're up, FaceTime me. Dom says, my stomach is effed right now. She says, how? Dom says, I don't know. I ate canes yesterday. Then it jumps to the next morning at 9:12 a.m. Kenzie says, morning, baby. Lexi's typing for so long right now. She said, we got to talk and has been typing for like 5 minutes now. Dom says, weird. What did she say? Kenzie says, want to hang? At 2:58 p.m. He says, yeah. She says, okay, what time can I come over? She says, you can come right now. I'm not doing anything. I have to leave to do a couple things soon, though. She says, okay, bet. I'll be there soon. He says, okay. She says, on the way. That's at, let's see, what time is that at? 3:05. Then she says at 4:03, what is going on? Dom says, I'm washing my poison oak. Kenzie says, no, I mean, are you good? Because ever since I got here, you've only been talking to me about the rubbing alcohol. And I don't know if I did something wrong. Dom says, clean your effing poison oak. Kenzie says, it's literally is clean, but you really want me to clean it even more than I will. Like I told you, get me a cotton ball. Dom says something, but it's redacted. He says, you have to wash it with alcohol. That's why yours is spreading. I told you that. Kenzie says, WTF with 7 question marks. She says, is that new? Dom says, yeah, that's what happened to me a couple years ago. Kenzie said, WTF. Dom said, so if you don't want to wash your shit, effing leave my house. I had the shits on, what? He says, I had the shits on my dick, so yeah, I'm offended by you. Wait. They got poison oak, or is there something else going on? I can't remember this. Wait, why is it on his PP? He says, wait, where'd they get poison oak from? Or do they just think it's poison oak? She says, is that new? He says, yeah, that's what happened to me a couple years ago. Because he says, WTF. He says, so if you don't want to wash your shit, effing leave my house. I have it on my PP, so yeah, I'm offended by you, by not washing it. Kenzie said, I said 7+ times I will. I don't know why you're being so mean about it. Dom says, because you're not doing it. Kenzie says, like, what else do you want me to say? Dom says, you're laying in my bed where I sleep. Kenzie says, I said, bring me the ball. Dom says, I have to wash my sheets. I came and brought you them. Dom says, you threw it away? Dom says, I'm hella offended. Kenzie says, where did you put them? Dom says, you can't expect to clean it. You can't expect to clean it in my room. Kenzie says, I'm not trying to argue. This is gay AF. Dom said, you don't see cleaning myself in there. I don't want to either. You're the one who won't clean. All you have to do is get up and go to the sink. And there you go. Kenzie says, where are you at? At 6:18 p.m. Question mark, question mark, question mark. You said you would bring a blanket. Dom, sad face. That was at 11:07 p.m. Then she says, FaceTime me when you're up the next day. Or at 1:42 a.m. He says, okay, FaceTime me when you want. She says, okay, bet. That's weird. Ew, wash it, not just. I don't remember that part. Fighting over cotton balls. Is it really poison oak though, or no? She nasty, says Inside. I can see Natalie and Steve never doing dishes. You asked that last time, did I? Oh, okay, it was poison oak. Okay. Okay. Got it. She says, next morning at 10:23 a.m. TikTok link. She says, we should go to one of the other places. Dom says, what? She says, I want to go to one of these places. Dom said, yeah, not today though. She says, yeah, I know, soon. How'd you sleep, baby? And how is a poison oak? He says, itchy. She says, well, is it better or worse today? Is your shit clearing up at all? Why is red off? Dom says, I don't know. Probably not. She says, turn red back on. Dom said, it's probably the same. What do you mean? I have red on. Kenzie says, mine looks better, to be honest. No, you don't. He says, you're the one who doesn't have it on. She says, I do have red on. Sends a screenshot of her settings. She said, you just turned yours back on. Dom says, I know. I did. She says, okay, thanks, baby. She says, I think I have 3 spots on my leg now. At 11:31 a.m., Dom says, what day did we get poison oak? She says, probably from scratching my leg. She says, let me see. July 5th. So it's been like 2 days. Dom said, it's the 9th. Kenzie said, oh, LOL. Dom says, what are you doing? She says, I'm tanning. What about you? He says, I just got up. I'm chilling on the back porch. Kenzie says, it's really nice out right now. Low-key humid, though. Dom says, yeah, it's kind of hot. She says, it's a good time to tan. He says, you won the giveaway. Sends a picture of something. I can't see what it is. And then Kenzie sends links to like shopping links. She says, on my way. Dom says, where you at? She says, here. Dom says, what are you doing? Oh, wait. She says, here at 1:31 p.m. And then it jumps to the next day. Dom says, what are you doing, babe? At 9:04 a.m. She says, trying to go back to sleep. I woke up itchy AF at like 8 a.m. Dom says, I'm just chilling on the front porch. I woke up at 7 to 8-ish too. Kenzie says, that's weird how we both woke up early AF. Want to FaceTime? Dom says, yeah. She says, I know you're mad, but Kona Ice is going to be at my house soon. At 10:02 a.m. She says, babe, we might go into quarantine again before my birthday. Dom said, who cares? We'll still throw a party. She says, okay, I hope we still can. Also, want to come to my house for Kona Ice, baby? Dom says, maybe. I'm about to go to Trevor's soon. She says, come to Kona first. Dom says, I'm going to Trevor's first. She says, okay, fine, babe. That was at 10:52 a.m. And then he says, what are you doing now, babe? At 12:19. She says, I'm tanning, waiting for Kona Ice. It's going to be here at 2 now. She says, babe. He says, okay. He says, what are you doing now? At 2:30 p.m. She says, eating Kona. Want to hang soon? Dom says, yeah. Get me some Kona. What even is Kona? Kenzie says, Kona Ice. What flavor? I'm getting you blue tax. Blue tax? She says, then I can come over. She says, baby. He says, yeah. She says, okay, bet. On my way. Next day at 10:30 a.m. She says, good morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. What are you doing? She says, I'm just laying down still. I woke up early again. Dom says, I woke up like an hour ago. Kenzie said, what you been doing? He said, not much, really. She said, want to FaceTime? He says, I'm on the toilet. She says, okay, after. He says, how many weeks are the plants? She says, let me check. She said, June 3rd is the first pick of the plants. They were sprouts. So maybe a little after June 3rd. I mean, before. Dom said, okay, cool. He says, what are you doing at 11:55 a.m.? She says, watching Netflix. Dom says, read a book, you effing are. I'm just kidding. You can come make me some breakfast, though. She says, you want me to come over? He says, only if you can make a good breakfast. She says, depends on what you want, babe. She says, what color shorts should I wear? Navy, blue, pink, or gray? Dom says, navy blue. She says, okay, but what you want for breakfast, babe? Can you FaceTime me? He says, I made an egg sandwich. I'm good now. She says, ... Where did you go? He said, I was outside shooting the ball. She says, okay, that was at 8:34 p.m. Next morning at 10:24 a.m. She says, morning, my nose is bruised. Dom says, tough. He says, good morning, babe. She says, how did you sleep? And then she sends a picture of herself. He says, good, babe. She says, honestly, same. The first good night's sleep in a while. She says, I'm so effing itchy, though. Dom said, my bumps are getting a little better now. Kenzie said, you are so cute. I drove past your house and I seen my babe reading. Dom said, LOL. He says, my bracelet broke too. It just broke. Kenzie said, I want you to fix mine. So did mine last night. Dom says, I don't know if I can fix mine. I know, I seen yours on my dresser. Then mine broke right after. Kenzie said, how did yours break? Dom said, the string came out of the thing that holds it. Kenzie said, oh shit. Dom said, I know, right? I liked it too. Kenzie said, we should just get better bracelets that we can twin with. She says, you're so cute. I just seen you again. Dom said, you're so cute. She says, what are you doing, baby? He says, chilling at the crib, might slide to Jared's real quick. She says, what are y'all about to do? She says, it's not nice out today at all. I can't even tan. Dom says, I got to drop him something, but I might be there too. She says, that sounds fun. She says, I'm hungry AF right now too. Dom said, yeah, I could use some food too. Kenzie says, I want to hang today at some point. No response. She says, babe, at 2:01 p.m. Are you sure you gave me Kristen, Kyle, and I don't know, Chelsea's money? Is it Chelsea? He says, I had it separately from my money, then gave it to you. She says, that's what I thought. My mom literally misplaced it. Dom said, yeah, I remember giving it to you. If she didn't get it, you misplaced it. Kenzie says, exactly. I remember that too. She says, what are you doing? I'm on my way to the beach. She says, babe, who's at your house with the white car? Dom says, I don't know. I'm not home. What kind of car? Kenzie says, a white Volkswagen, I think. Dom said, probably Chris's friend, Alex. She says, oh. She says, what are you doing right now, baby? He says, at Jared's, about to leave soon. She says, me and Maddie got hella food. Dom says, from where? Let me get some. She says, snacks. We're on the way to the beach, babe. Dom says, oh, okay. She says, it's going to be fun AF. She says, hey, baby, at 6:53 p.m. What are you doing? He says, I'm just chilling right now. She says, same, you want to hang tonight? Dom says, yeah, let me go to Trevor's first. She says, okay, bet, I'm still with Maddie. Dom says, I never even went to Trevor's. What are you doing now? He says at 9:19 p.m. She says, I'm on the way home right now. I can come over when I'm home. She says, I want to cuddle. Dom says, maybe. I think I'm going to play some 2K though. She says, I'll watch. Dom says, maybe. She says, no. Yes, babe. He says, I love you so much, babe. See, this is like what confuses me. All the toxic fighting and then this. But they're not very like affectionate usually, you know? On his let's just get Gucci business. Yeah, I know. Damn stalker. This is what I don't understand. They fight and then he's like, I love you so much, babe. She says, I love you too, baby. You're so sweet. She says, what are you doing now? He says, I might go match with my cousin. She says, what one? She says, I need to shower. I was in the lake today, but I want to hang with you after. Question mark, question mark. He says, Ryan. She says, can I come? It's okay if not. He says, sorry, I was driving there. She sends a picture. She says, that happens the night we were there. Now it's midnight. Dom says, damn, for real? They got robbed? I have to sneeze. She sends a screenshot of something. Then she says, yep. Dom said, that's wild. She says, now I can't get a cute little rig. She says, what are you doing today? On July the 13th at 2:02 p.m. She says, I want to hang. Dom said, stopping at Kyle's and I'm going to go home and chill with Blair for a little. Kenzie says, do you want to chill after you chill with Blair? He says, yeah. She says, okay, yay. She said, what's up now at 3:43 p.m.? Question mark, question mark. No response. She says, this is giving me bad vibes. I don't know why. Dom says, you can come over. I've been doing a lot of stuff. Kenzie said, okay, bet. She says, I'm on the way. And then she says, my mom's on the way. So she went over there and they hung out. And then at 1 a.m, she says, my mom's on the way. 1:30 is when I'm leaving. And then she sends 10 question marks. Babe, answer. Dom says, what are you doing, babe? The next day at noon. She says, hey, baby, I'm just tanning with oil. What about you? I think that's what she meant to say. Dom said, chilling with Angelo. She said, it's kind of nice today. We should do something if you're free. Dom said, yeah, what do you want to do? She says, want to go to the beach? We can have a beach day, or we can try to go to Mohican or someplace like that, or even Mentor Heads. She says, babe, at 1:01 p.m. He says, want to just go nature walk somewhere, then go out to eat? Kenzie said, yes, that sounds fun AF. Dom says, blunt on the way to nature walk, then blunt on nature walk, then go smoke a blunt before eat, and then smoke another blunt after. Kenzie says, LMFAO. Damn, how many blunts is that? 1 blunt, 2 blunt, 3 blunts, 4 blunts. They're going to smoke 4 blunts. Holy. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Mentor Headlands. Thank you. She says LMFAO. Yes, of course, babe. He says LMAO. She says, when are you trying to go? She said, whip sledge, question mark. Dom says, yeah, I don't know when I'm trying to go. She said, you still doing vape shit? How about after you do all that shit? Dom said, I'm not doing anything right now. I was just figuring out what I should sell them for and shit. Kenzie says, okay, well, you want to go around 3 or sooner? Dom said, I need some lunch first. She says, want to get lunch together, or you just want to go? Dom says, I don't really want anything big, just something little and not too unhealthy. And Dom says, and quick, I'm not trying to wait, because then I can roll a blunt and we can go nature walk. Kenzie says, okay, you go eat and shit, then hit me up when you want me to start getting ready. Dom says, what should I go get? Kenzie said, Chick-fil-A or Cane's. She says, you about to be ready at 2:50 p.m.? Dom says, I'm about to go get food real quick. She says, want me to go get ready now? Want me to get ready now? Dom? She says that at 3:05 p.m. Then she says, cuddle. It jumps to 10:37 p.m. Come cuddle me. Dom says, I'm about to be home. Then I got to go one more place. Then we can. She says, okay. Then it jumps to the next day at 2:20 p.m., the 15th. Babe, says Kenzie, if you're still with Kyle, tell him Kristen, she needs to give me $30 for the pen. She says, I just got some cute ass glasses. Dom says, nice. She says, when you going to be free, baby? He says, I'm home now. I want to go to Trevor's Zoo and do a couple things. She says, you can do that. We can just hang after. Dom says, okay. She says, it's so hot today. It's like hard to tan. Dom says, that's tough. I don't think I'm going to Trevor's anymore. If you want to chill soon. She says, yes, baby. Want me to get ready right now? He says, yeah, well, what do you want to do? Because I don't want you to get mad at me all day. She says, LOL, I don't care what we do, babe. I'm not going to be mad. He says, that's what you say. She says, are you good, baby? He says, yeah, why? She says, you seemed mad. So they hung out, and now she's not with him, and she's texting him. I feel like this is around the time that they really start hanging out. Hey, vegan. Hey, Julie. They gonna be asleep. Yo, I couldn't do it. Not 4 blunts. Bruh, that's a lot of blunts. I just saw your guys' comments. Yo, exactly. She seemed like a rude person in general. She is. Thank you, Are You Barbie? I know Mac was an issue, and I saw her on the Mean Girl. Oh yeah, she is a way issue. She says, you seemed mad. He says, no, I was just effing around. She says, oh. She says, I didn't know. Well, do you want me to get ready and come? He says, well, I could go do a drop off, then go to Trevor's. She says, well, tell me what you want to do, babe. She says, Dom. He said, you can come. He says, do you have food? She says, okay, bet. No, I'm really hungry. Dom says, I put some leftovers in the oven. Let me know if you want to get food. Nowhere too expensive. She says, LOL, okay, baby. She says, I'm going to come in like 3 minutes. Dom says, okay. Kenzie says, on my way. She says, want to get Chinese or something like that? Or Chick-fil-A? And then it jumps to the next day at 11:05 a.m., June 16th. She says, hey, baby. He says, hey, babe. She says, how did you sleep? Also, is your poison oak gone? Dom said, it's getting there. Kenzie said, mine is pretty much gone. Do you want to hang today? Dom says, I think I'm going to chill with Thomas when he gets off work. Kenzie said, when is he off? Dom says, 4, so we can probably chill before. Kenzie says, okay, yay. She says, what are you doing now? She says, want to hang now or at 1:30? Dom says, yeah, I have to take a shower in a little though. She said, that's fine. Yeah, to what one? And then she says, now or 1:30? Dom says, whatever you want. She says, okay, I'm going to get ready right now. She says, on my way. She says, where are you? Question mark, question mark. She says, K. He says, on the way home. I told you I had to leave real quick. She said, no, you didn't. Dom said, don't be a bitch. Kenzie said, excuse me? Oh, wait, I don't like that. I don't like when men use the B word to women. But this is a problem here. She says, excuse me? Question mark. You said you had to shower. And if you were leaving, I don't know why you couldn't scoop. But I'm here now. When are you going to be back? Dom says, 5 minutes. She says, where you go? Dom said, next door. I can't find the cap for the battery. She says, I'm coming over. Are you in the house? She says, baby, how much for puff? Oh, wait, that was at 2:28. Then it jumps to 5:31. How much for puff plus? $20? Dom said 15 to 20. She said, okay, thanks, baby. She said, wait, babe, how much is 2? 40 or 35? Dom says 30. She says, okay. He says, sorry, I was looking for shoes. She says, it's okay. Did you buy any? He says, no, not good prices. Didn't see any for you either. She says, how many places you guys going? Dom says 2. What size are you? She said, in men's 5.5 or 6. Girls 7, I think. Dom says, okay. And then he sends a picture of, I think, a pair of shoes. I can't see. He says, those wouldn't fit. Kenzie says, probably not. 5 barely fits. I can fit a 5 though. 5 barely fits. I can fit a 5 though. Or maybe that too. It will be tight though. Also, I got 4 sales. Dom sends another pic of shoes. She says, I got the blue ones of those already, baby. She said, those are cute though. I also got blue ones for like 100. And then she says, also, I'm waiting for someone to come right now. This white car passed me 5 times and they keep going fast AF. Dom said, would those fit you? Who's coming to you? She says, no. She says, and Gwen, I'm a 7 women's. My mom and dad are going to Square 22 tonight. Dom said, that's dope. She says, you come over tonight? Dom said, I didn't see kicks. Kenzie says, what do you mean? He says, any shoes, we might hit another store. Kenzie said, where y'all at? Dom says, W side. Kenzie said, that's where the good stores are. LOL. Did you get any? I want to see what you got. He says, no, didn't see any good deals. She said, oh shit, I thought you meant just for me. I for sure thought you got some. Dom said, no, none for either of us, babe. She says, I hope you find some shoes, babe. She said, did your friends get any? Dom said, no, they can't pay those prices either. Kenzie said, LOL. She says, what are you doing now, boo? At 7:13 p.m. Dom says, just got home. She says, can I come back over, babe? I got sales for you. Dom says, yeah. She says, okay, on my way. She says, I'm waiting outside. Dom says, here. Then it's the next day at 9:41 a.m. on July 17th, 2020. She sends a TikTok link. We should do that. He said, it just took me to Amazon. She said, really? He said, yeah, at work now. We could go pick berries, babe. Kenzie says, I want to do that. The berries would be so good. She loves his message. Dom says, okay. She says, what are you doing, babe? Wait. Yeah, what are you doing, babe, at 9:55 a.m.? He says, in bed. She says, me too. I woke up really early. I don't know why. Dom said, now that you said Lexi and Morgan are fucking, I really see it. Because they post weird. That's what Dom said. Kenzie says, oh my God, what did they post? Dom said, they just post weird. You'll see. Kenzie says, we started a conspiracy. Dom says, oh, with them? LMAO. Kenzie says, yes. Also, for cabins and Lexi's getting all the food. I'm going to pay for your $10. So I'm going to pay 20. Dom said, so you're giving Lexi $20 for food? Kenzie says, yeah. Dom said, what if we got our own steaks? Dom says she's getting food. Kenzie says she's getting food and alcohol. Dom said, like some filet? Kenzie says, I'll tell 𝗲𝓾𝓶𝓏. We're going to do that then. Dom says, I'm getting my own alcohol. Kenzie said, oh shit. Dom said, ask her what kind of steaks. Kenzie says, what about burgers? Dom says, I don't care about burgers. That's just seasoned ground meat. Kenzie said, she's getting not fillets, so we're getting our own steaks. She's getting everything else though. Dom said, what kind of steaks is she getting? Kenzie said, sirloin, I think, LOL. Dom said, oh, okay. Kenzie said, so 𝗲𝓾𝓶𝓏's getting everything else. Want to see the list? Dom said, sure. She says, okay, let me screenshot. She sends a list. Look at Saturday dinner. Dom says, ask her to get limes. Kenzie said, okay, bet. Dom says, a lot of them. She says, okay, LMFAO. She said, some guy just added me by search. She says, with a weird ass name. Dom says, who? Let me see. She sends a screenshot of her Snapchat. He says, I don't know. Some foreign dude. Kenzie said, I thought it was a plug. Dom said, I don't know. Everyone's a plug nowadays. Kenzie said, LMFAO. True. She says, I got a huge ass bug bite on my leg at 10:21 a.m. She says, so itchy. Dom said, gross. Kenzie says, what are you doing, baby? He says, right now I'm cleaning out the shed. She said, is it messy? If you want, I'll help you. Dom says, yeah. She said, are you still doing it? He said, mm-hmm. She says, I will help, babe. He says, no, I'm already mad. You're not going to be able to do shit. She said, that's okay, baby. Also, Kona Ice is going to be in my neighborhood at 2. Then she says at 2:48, hey, babe, are you good? Dom says, yeah, I'm still cleaning. She said, oh shit, how's that going? He said, time consuming. She said, Kona Ice is in my neighborhood right now. Dom says, can you get me food? Kenzie said, from where? He said, I haven't eaten breakfast and been doing this all day. Do you have turkey at your house? Kenzie says, let me ask. Dom says, all I need is some turkey. We have none, and I want to make a sandwich real quick. She says, we probably do. Okay, why does she say, let me ask? Like, does she not know what turkey looks like to go into the fucking fridge and go look with her eyeballs? She does a lot trying to make him jealous. She's gross. Dom is from a very wealthy family, from what I understand. I just discovered this case from that show. Yeah. I heard the word baby. I hate the word baby after it. I know, me too. Is Kona Ice like a ice cream truck? That's what I was gonna ask. So it's like a shaved, is it shaved ice? Is that what it is? Let me look it up. I was wondering too. Oh. I don't know what it is, but you guys might know what it is. It looks like it's shaved ice. I don't think it's necessarily ice cream, right? I don't know. It sounds good though. I know people drink Kona coffee. Yeah, they do. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, thank you. Let me take a drink. And pick flavors. Ooh, that sounds good. Thanks, guys. She says we probably do. Okay, so go look for the turkey in the fridge. Do you know what a refrigerator is, Kenzie? She says, what are you doing, baby, at 5:19 p.m.? She says, I'm asking right now. Dom says, we're still cleaning and shit? Kenzie says, we don't have any. Sad face, sad face. I can get some for you. Dom says, do you have chicken? She says, yes. He said, really? She said, I think. Hold up. Dom said, what kind? He says, like lunch meat chicken, not like chicken tenders or something. Kenzie sends a screenshot of a message. I don't know why she said, yes, we don't have chicken, but that's what we have. She had to text her mom. Can she not literally go to the refrigerator and look? She annoys me so much. She's incapable of taking care of herself and incapable of taking accountability for herself. She said, I don't know why she said yes when we don't have chicken, but that's what we have. Sorry, babe. I'll go buy you some, though. Dom said, London broil is a steak, I thought. Can you just get me deli turkey and salami? Kenzie says, I don't know, to be honest. I don't eat it. LOL. Yeah. Dom says, from Giant Eagle. She says, right now? Question mark. Dom says, I'm hungry, so whenever you can. She says, okay, I'm gonna get ready, then come over. Dom says, okay, hurry, I might die. She says, LOL, I will, babe. He says, how long till you're here? She said, I don't know, I'm waiting for my mom right now. Soon though, I'm gonna get food. I'm gonna get your food, babe. He says, let me know. She says, okay, I'm getting it right now. At the checkout. If this, that was at 6:18 p.m. And then she says, if this is how tonight's gonna be, I'm just gonna leave. So now it's 8:34 p.m. So she went over there, brought him salami and turkey or whatever. And then she says, if this is how tonight's gonna be, I'm just gonna leave. All I asked was for attention, and you had to be mean for no reason. I honestly might leave because you're being mean just to be mean, and I don't deserve it at all. I tried to help you as much as I can. I brought you food today. Like, I'm not asking to go do shit. I'm asking for you to give me attention. And I could have just said this to you when you were in the room, but you gave me no time and just left the room before I could say pretty much anything. I want to stay. I've been waiting to see you all day, and this is not how I wanted my night to be. If you're mad and you're just trying to chill, you and Angelo, just tell me. Dom says, you're being fried. Suck it up and we can kick it or go home. She says, how am I being fried? Question mark, question mark. I don't even know where you're at. And now I have hella anxiety. He says, you're overreacting. She said, where are you? Question mark. She says, LOL, okay, Dom. He says, in the kitchen? Question mark. Then he says, do you have headaches or just migraines at midnight? She says, I don't have any right now. Dom says, you think you could just not be eating enough? She says, probably, to be honest. Dom says, can I help you eat more? She says, I've had like no appetite. Shit sucks. And if you always find ways without forcing me, LOL. Dom says, you can't tan too much either. Kenzie says, why? Tanning is so fun. Dom says, overexposure to sunlight gives hot headache and nausea. She says, oh shit, that's 100% it. I'm probably a little dehydrated. Dom says, look in the morning when you get up, don't go on your phone, text me, and then go drink a glass of water and have a little bit of fruit, and then we'll figure out lunch and dinner. She says, okay, I'll try. She says, I hate doing nothing. That's why I tan. Dom said, let's just make you healthy. I'll do it too. She says, I want to be doing something. Kenzie, well, it's called get a life, get some friends, like clean your room, try to grow up. She says, Dom says, no more junk fruits and getting fit. Kenzie says, okay, bet. She said, you're doing this with me though. Dom says, and that'll probably make you healthy. Kenzie says, I hope. Dom says, I'll do it easier than you probably think. Kenzie says, LOL, probably. She says, I look cute right now, by the way. Dom said, yeah, let's try to limit phone use as much. What if we did a dark 30 and deleted Instagram and all of that? Kenzie says, maybe, not that far yet. We'll try the diet. If that don't work, then Insta next. Dom says, you get headaches a lot too, looking at screens. Too much could be part of it. Kenzie says, maybe. She said, Smokey's waiting at the door. Also, good night, babe. I love you. He says, good night, babe. I love you too. That was at midnight. And then the next day on the 18th at 10:46 a.m., she says, good morning. I'm about to drink water and wash my face. This is the first night I slept so good in so long. She said, holy shit, my whole family is making me crazy today. She says at 11:58, no response. Baby, I have a surprise for you too. Dom says, bet, what is it? Did you eat fruit today? She says, it's really cute. And yes, baby, I'm trying to show you. He says, what did you eat? When you want to show me? She said, grapes and blackberries and water. I have to show you right now. FaceTime me. Then she says, did you find them, baby? Babe, what was that? She says. Oh, wait. So then it jumps. So she says, did you find them, baby, at 1:24 p.m.? Then it jumps to 11:19 p.m. So later in the night. Babe, what was that? Are you outside? It might be Bernie making sounds. Dom said, I don't know, for real. Probably Bernie. They in Angela's room right now. Kenzie said, it was loud. LOL. Dom says, I'm in the bathroom. I had to shit real quick. She said, of course you did. She says, my baby, give me kissy when you out. He says, okay. He says, I gotta hurry because the wood is burning. She says, okay, bet. When you want me up? She says at 1:15 a.m. Also, good night, baby. He says, I don't know. When you get up, come over so we can get ready. She says, okay, bet. Give me a little though. Oh, wait. So then she says, okay, bet. She says, give me a little though. I feel weird kind of still at 8:34 a.m. Dom says, I'm so tired. Come over. We got to go to Jared's in like an hour. Kenzie says, okay, I'm coming. I'm going to get ready right now. Get the wood ready. Speedway, right? She says, and what kind? Dom says, yeah, sweet aromatic. She says, okay, bet. He said, or Russian cream or original. Just no black Russian wood, Russian honey, honeyberry, or honey bourbon. Kenzie said, LOL, okay. She says, I'm here at 9:12 a.m. Sends a screenshot of something. She says, babe, did I do something at 5:33 p.m.? So this is like later in the day. She says, babe, did I do something? Babe? She says, my stomach is effed. He says, probably constipation. Maybe we should go on a really strict diet at 9:22 p.m. Kenzie says, you do it with me then. Dom says, I'll try. She says, Dom says, but I don't really have to, but I will. Kenzie says, good morning, baby, the next day, 21st at 9:35 a.m. He says, good morning, babe. She says, can you try to fix my necklace sometime today? Some reason I just woke up thinking about it hella. How'd you sleep? Dom says, I don't know if I can fix it. A jeweler definitely could. She says, I just bought a new one. Would I have to pay a jeweler to fix? And then she sends a picture of someone holding a dog. She says, Dom. She says, Morgan's mom has coronavirus. She's in the hospital. Dom said, it's a scam. Kenzie said, that's what I told her. But now I'm worried AF. Dom says, well, maybe now we can all have fun. Kenzie says, do you think I could have gotten exposed to it? You're talking about at cabins? Dom says, yeah. And no, you're probably fine. Her mom is probably fine. Kenzie said, it's really sad because her mom's so nice. Dom says, unless the hospital does some shit to her. Yeah, her mom's nice and Morgan's a bitch. Kenzie says, I feel really bad for Morgan, to be honest. Dom says, yeah, I don't know who I'd rather have get it, Morgan or Lexi. She says, oh my God, Dom, I feel like Morgan and Lexi are chill when they're not together, but them together is annoying. Dom says, I hate all of them. Kenzie says, I feel it. She says, go on Twitter. Kanye is wildin'. He's crazy as a mother effer. Dom says, Blair still want to go cliff jumping. Kenzie said, today at 1:28 p.m. Dom said, yeah, it's not that hot though. Kenzie said, it honestly is. I'm sweating my ass off and I'm just sitting outside. I'm down to go. Dom says, okay. Kenzie said, when is this happening and where? Dom sends a screenshot of a text message. He says, I don't know. I probably don't want to go because Blair just loves talking out his ass. Kenzie said, it will be fun. I think we should go. Kenzie says, but it's up to you. Also, Phil added me and is trying to be friends. LMFAO. I'm being mean though, because he could get hella vapes. I'm not being mean though, because he could get hella vapes. Dom says LMAO. She says, right? Dom says, I don't think I want to go. I'll probably just bawl. She says, damn, sad face. I kind of want to go. But where y'all balling? And will Mallory be there? Because if she is, can I come? Dom says, no, 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 and no. Kenzie says, okay, ... Are you good? She says at 1:42 p.m. Like, that was just a question. You don't got to get mad, babe. She says, when should I have my birthday party? The 9th or the 18th? or the 3rd or the 4th at 2:18 p.m. She says, why are you leaving me on red? Sideways face, then questions her own message. Dom says, because I don't want to text. Kenzie says, well, you can at least not be a dick for no reason. I haven't done anything to you. Dom said, all I did was not text back, but okay. Kenzie says, I'll leave you alone if you're mad, but can you at least answer my question about the party? Dom says, I don't know about the fucking party. She says, I'll talk to you later. And that was on 2:36 p.m. Then Dom sends a Snapchat link. Kenzie said, bruh, Morgan is still trying to come to cabins. I texted Lexi and she got defensive AF. Dom says, what do you mean? Lexi's mad. She's still trying to go or mad because you said something. Dom says, and didn't Morgan still not even pay? Kenzie said, the video is sad AF. Dom says, I know. It's some facts though. Kenzie said, I am so scared that I'm going to become like that. Like, what if I can't get a job that I want because of my grades? Like, I didn't even get into Polaris. Dom said, that's not the point. That's the wrong point. Kenzie said, that's how I seen it. How did you see it? Dom said, that's why you don't work for some other jackass and work for yourself. Kenzie emphasized her message. Dom said, that's why you read books on COS and do shit. They didn't teach all the rest of the cloned COS students because they're learning the same thing. Kenzie says, oh my God, WTF. You're right. Morgan didn't pay. She says, WTF. Dom says, yeah. She says, bruh, I'm about to not let her go. Dom questions her text. Honestly, I have no clue about that. Lexi's just being weird AF. And a bitch. Dom said, what is she saying? I would just wait another day and then say your mom is about to cancel because everyone didn't pay. Kenzie says, like, I texted her about what we should do about Morgan, and I asked her if she talks to her, and she said, yeah. Then I asked, what do you want to do? And she was like, well, me and Devin still want to go, but that doesn't even, but wasn't even the question. And she got defensive. If anything, she would be worried she has a whole ass babe. Dom says, bruh, I swear to God, this shit is going to be our word. You should just give them their money back. And me, you, Kristen, and Kyle will go and bring other people. Kenzie says, I want to do that, but the trip is in like 3 days. And like, who else would we bring? Dom says, who gives a fuck? Lexi and Morgan annoying AF for like a whole month now. Kenzie says, I texted Morgan and she said, yes, I'm aware. Dom said, plus, I ain't ever hear from any of them unless they need something. Kenzie says, then I said, you need to pay before the trip. Dom says, I would just cancel it. Kenzie says, I don't think we should do that. Dom says, cancel, fuck them. Me and you can have our own vacation. Kenzie says, I'd be such a bad person if I canceled it. Think about it. It stresses me out. Dom says, nah, I'm gonna ask Kyle what he thinks. Kenzie said, okay, let me know what he thinks. This shit annoying. Dom said, because for real, you say something to them and they just mean to you and Morgan hasn't even paid. Kenzie said, I really can't. Dom said, but Sheen and Lexi paid, right? Kenzie said, yeah, they paid second. Like, what would I say to them? Dom said, I would just say your mom canceled the trip because Morgan didn't pay. Kenzie said, we can't really do that. It's real shit. Real shitty. Dom said, no, it's not. Kenzie said, like, Lexi got the food and shit. Dom says, they shittier. Lexi's such a shitty person. I yearn for Lexi to get fucked over. Oh my God. I know. It's like, I wonder how all her friends, all these people in her text messages fell after these were released. That's crazy. Let me take a drink of water. He says, I yearn for Lexi to get fucked over. Kenzie says, they will hate me. I can't just do that. I will feel too bad. Dom says, Lexi will be irrelevant by next year. Kenzie said, and if you say something, they will know I talked to you about it. Dom said, Lexi used to get back with Sheen, then dogged my life. I ain't never seen Sheen again. Then baby trapped him. Kenzie said, I really don't know what to do. Dom said, this is what I'm going to say. Lexi doesn't talk to you all year, but wants to come around when she's trying to have fun so she can use you and your mom like for the cabin. And she was trying to use her minivan and she was trying to get me to give her free shit for buying groceries. And then when your mom can't babysit the baby, she just picks Morgan as her new bestie because Morgan's mom will buy her clothes and babysit and all of that. Kenzie sends a Snapchat screenshot. Dom said, and then what? Only give them $70 back each? Kenzie said, LMFAO, I can't do that. Find people to go. She says, want to bring Maddie? Like, we don't even have food. Should we just shop there? She says, Dom, they are mad. I told you. Dom says, who's mad? She said, the girls' group chat is effed right now. So much shit going down. Kristen is going off on everyone. Dom said, that you told what? Kenzie says, I'm in the group. Dom says, add me and Kyle. Kenzie said, that's a bad idea. Dom said, what's going on now? Kenzie said, I'm on FaceTime with them. Kyle, AJ, and Kristen. Dom said, what? He questions her text messages. Lexi said she's coming, says Kenzie. Dom says, she said y'all dumb. I want to say the one who can't take birth control, right? Kenzie says, LMAO. Dom says, right though? Kenzie said, we're all still talking at 8:30 or 9. Dom said, what? Kenzie said, we're going to Kyle's later to talk about this. Dom said, okay. Kenzie said, look at how dumb she's being. Dom says, I know. Kenzie said, you want that Isabel girl and her boyfriend to come? Dom says, I don't know about them. And Isabel is kind of annoying. Kenzie said, yeah, true. Tell Kyle. Dom said, well, Lexi, Devin, Chris, and Morgan ain't going, so we need 4 people. And AJ is coming, so only 3 more. Kenzie says, who you want to bring? Tell Kyle you don't want them to come because they asked me on FaceTime. I said, I don't care. Kenzie said, I'm so stressed out right now. This is so bad. Should I just unadd her? Dom says, yes. Tell her at least I know how to take birth control. Kenzie said, she's spamming me. That's so mean. I'm not saying that. Dom says, I will. That would make you and Devin not cool. Dom says, I don't care. Or wait, it says Devon. I don't know if it's Devin or Devon. Looks like Devon. Dom says, I don't care. As long as he's with Lexi, I'll probably never see him anyway. Kenzie said, I guess. Dom said, what's going on now? I asked her why she's spamming you. She didn't answer. Kenzie says, my mom gave the money back. Dom said, how much? Kenzie says, I didn't open her message. The amount they paid? Dom said, she should have gave her less back. Kenzie said, no, they have a baby. I know you don't care about Lexi, but the baby is important. Dom said, the baby should get taken by child services. She drank, smoked weed, and fucked while she was pregnant. Oh my God. I forgot this was so bad. This is so bad. That's what Dom said. Kenzie said, yeah, for real, but that's not our place. She says, I understand weed, but effing when pregnant is effed. Dom says, yeah, maybe she didn't know when she was drinking, but still, she can't talk on anything. Kenzie said, yeah, for real. She says, that was at 4:03. She says, babe, you chilled with Devin. Dom says, what? She says, we possibly have it. Like, F them for not telling us. I'm so effing mad. Dom says, I think she was saying she didn't know by then. Dom says, I don't know, bruh. Kenzie says, I don't know, bruh. This is so fucked up. And now we don't even know what we're doing about food. Dom says, we'll go get food tomorrow. Kenzie says, okay, we'll talk about it with Kyle and them tonight. This is so effed up. Dom says, I know, I just told her off. Kenzie said, who? And it's funny that Lexi said Morgan can't get tested because she's not 18, but my 5-year-old got tested. Dom says, Lexi told her to go take birth control. Kenzie says, OMG, bruh, are you for real? That's bad. What did she say? Dom said, she said that you're a child, etc., etc. So I said, the F you talking about? Kenzie says, oh my God. Dom sends a screenshot of the text messages. Kenzie said, she's done. I went off. Dom says, I wouldn't even have said anything. Probably going to make you look more childish. Kenzie said, I don't give an F. She's a dumbass. I just unadded her. She can go fuck Morgan. Like, she told me shit that could ruin her and Devin. Like, she want to play that game. Dom says, should we expose her about fucking 𝗟𝗟𝗆𝗆? Kenzie says, I'll go tell Devin. She says, no. Dom said, did she F Morgan too? Kenzie says, if anything else happens, yes. And I don't know. Dom says, then what you threatening to tell him? Kenzie says, I didn't tell you. Dom said, what? Kenzie says, I'm going to tell you now. But call me. Dom says, why? She says, I just don't want to text it. It's really bad. Babe, please don't tell anyone. It's between me and you. And she apologized to me. I'm just not going to accept it. Okay? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Dom said, she apologized? Kenzie said, yeah. Dom said, oh, okay. Kenzie said, sends a screenshot. She says, I don't accept it. But I'm not going to beef with her because I'm a good person. Please forget I said anything. I was really mad. She says, me and Lexi are talking right now. Babe, don't be mean to her. So wait, she was fighting with Lexi. Now she's making up with her? Kenzie says, babe, you want to sell 3 puffs? Dom, can you answer? Like, if you can decline, you can answer me. Dom says, sorry, I'm just dealing with something in my thoughts at 5:11 p.m. Kenzie says, are you okay? Dom says, no. Kenzie said, what's going on? Do you want to talk? I want to be here for you, baby. I'm worried. Dom doesn't respond. She says, babe. Dom says, it don't hurt as bad as it used to. Kenzie said, babe, what's wrong? Talk to me. Dom says, it's okay. I'm sorry, babe. She says, no, you're worrying me. What's wrong, babe? She says, call me. Dom says, I'm fine, babe. Just leave me a little alone for a little. Kenzie says, okay, you can talk to me. I'm here for you. She says, I'm really worried. Dom says, honestly, I just been hurting for so long. Kenzie says, about what, babe? Dom says, I think I'm better, then I just hurt more. Kenzie says, do you want to talk to me? You're worrying me. I can come over and we can talk. Dom says, no, I don't want to talk about it. I can't. Kenzie says, I'm worried about you, babe. It's making me sad. I don't want you to be sad. Is it about me? Dom says, no, babe. I don't think I am who I was before. I don't think I am who I am. Or if that wasn't who I am, Kenzie said, is that a good thing or bad thing? Are you not happy, babe? Dom said, no, babe. She says, Dom, I'm really worried about you. You can talk to me. Dom said, nothing's the same. It never will be. Kenzie says, what is not the same, babe? Dom says, nothing. I'm just still broken. What the heck is going on here? Why does he get like this at this part? So Lexi's calling Dom and Kenzie on the statutory grip situation. Yeah, Alicia. At least she thinks of the kid. Yeah, I know. Right, Evie? Seemed like she starts to think to control the drama to feel the main character BS. Yeah. My mom would have sent me to a military school acting this way. I agree. Are you worried? I agree. He says, I'm just still broken. I wonder if Dom's going through like one of his things, you know? Yeah, I think it is the whole Kenzie relationship making him feel this way. We know he has like depression issues or whatnot. Was it depression or was it BPD? I thought it was BPD. Dom says, I'm just still broken. Kenzie says, babe. Dom says, I didn't think I was broken, but I've been broken for so long now. Kenzie says, why are you broken, babe? At 6:06 p.m. You promise it's not me? Baby, please let me come talk to you. This makes me so sad. Dom says, it's not you, babe. Kenzie says, how can I help you? Let me come cuddle you and I can just sit and think. I won't say anything. Please let me be there for you. You always are there for me. I can get you food, then come cuddle you. Dom says, no, just let me chill alone. Kenzie says, okay, if you need anything, please text me. And don't forget about tonight. I love you, babe. He says, I love you too, babe. Then he says, my mom wants to know if you want steak. Kenzie says, yeah, a little one though. Is she making mashed potatoes too? And when you gonna let me come? Because Kristen is off at 8. He doesn't respond. He says, babe. Dom says, I think so. Maybe sweet potatoes. Kenzie says, I hope it's mashed, LOL. And when you letting me come over, baby? I want to come now. He doesn't respond. She says, babe. He says, I don't know. Not right now. She says, what are you doing right now? He says, pretty much nothing. She say, okay, when is dinner going to be done? Are you going to let me come before it's done? Dom says, I don't know when it's going to be done. I don't really want to chill though. Kenzie said, okay, but at 8:30 or 9, we got to go to Kyle's. She says, why? Why would you ask if I wanted food if you don't want to hang out? I'm confused. Dom says, my mom wanted to know. You can always come over and eat dinner with us. Kenzie says, so you want me to come eat and then leave? I thought I was coming to hang. Sad face. Dom says, if you want to. I don't want to hang. She says, so we're not going to Kyle's either? We were supposed to go talk there. She says, I told you not to forget. Dom says, we can go there, but only for a little. Kenzie said, now I feel bad. Your mom made me a steak. Dom said, why? Kenzie says, because I don't want to come eat and then just leave right after. It feels rude. Dom said, that doesn't make sense. Kenzie says, and I don't want to just do that. I'm so confused. Dom says, okay, don't come then. I can just eat it. Kenzie said, this is so stressful. I thought we were going to hang and now just stressed. I thought when you asked about dinner, that meant I could come hang. Like I wanted to come eat. You've been ignoring my calls all day. I've just been trying to talk to you. Dom says, I don't feel well. Kenzie says, you think you're sick? Oh my God, today is so effing stressful. Now I'm even more worried about you. Dom says, no, not like that. I asked you to leave me alone, he says at 7:47 p.m. I think he just doesn't want to be with her. And it's hard on him. And being micromanaged really does get stressful. And getting harassed and text this much and not being able to do his own thing, like I'm sure. She's really caring, isn't she? She doesn't give a damn that he's depressed and hurting. No, it's always about Kenzie. Yeah, it's all about her. She's like, if I want to hang out and we don't get to, I don't get my way, she's going to throw fit when he's already having a bad night. I think she just had major anger issues that when she didn't get her way. Yeah, I agree. He says, I asked you to leave me alone. Kenzie says, you said for a little. I didn't know what that meant all day. Like, I'm worried about you, Dom. I've been thinking about you all day and you've just been pushing me away. Dom says, nothing I can do. Not like I'm getting anything else done. And Kenzie says, that's fine. I'm just asking for you to not text me like that. This has been a stressful day for the both of us. If you want more alone time, just tell me, babe, because I want you to be happy. But we really need to figure out this cabin shit tonight. No response. She says, baby. Dom says, okay, well, when I say leave me alone, I mean, don't text me either. Oh. Kenzie says, I mean, it would be a lot easier to not text you if you were nice about it. Dom says, too fucking bad. She dislikes her message. She said, thanks, babe. Sad face. Can you ask Kyle if they're still trying to figure out cabins tonight? She says at 9:03 p.m. He doesn't respond. She says, okay. Dom says, okay, I will. Dom said, probably tomorrow. Kenzie said, are you still in a bad mood or can we text or something? Dom says, I'm okay. We're not talking about anything though. Kenzie said, I never said I was going to. Do you want to hang out or FaceTime? Dom says, no. Then he says, no, babe. She said, thanks, Dom. Dom says, we can go to Kyle's and figure it out tomorrow. She said, okay. sad face. You say you're okay, then you're not talking to me at 10:15 p.m. Like, how do you think all of this is making me feel? You can't even ask me what's wrong. You just left me on red. Dom says, okay, I'm sorry. We will talk tomorrow. Kenzie said, quote unquote, sorry. And you always say that, but it's not going to change how I feel right now. I've been sad all day. I tried to be there for you, and that's okay if you want to keep it to yourself. Kenzie, listen, shut up, because you weren't sad all day. You were fighting with your friends, bullying them, and then going back and forth about who you want to be friends with and who you don't, and who you're going to blackmail and who you're not. And then you won't leave Dom alone. He tells you he needs some damn space. Like, she has no idea. I don't even know if she knows to this day what space, the definition of space. She says, I try to be there for you, and that's okay if you want to keep it to yourself. Dom says, why? Because of cabins? Kenzie said, and 𝗏𝗏𝗋𝗃 and Morgan shit stresses me because, like, what the F? Dom says, yeah. She said, and cabins is probably going to be fucked. And when I try to talk to anyone, I get left undelivered or ignored. Okay, so read the room, Kenzie. If people are ignoring you or leaving you on red and ignoring you, it means change something about yourself. Oh, F, here we go. Yeah. I never met anyone like her in my life. Good. Evie, good. Thank you, Nini. Me either. She's one of a kind. She lacks respect for anyone's boundaries and thinks she's entitled to everyone. Where does that like come from? You know what I mean? Natalie Shirilla, question mark, question mark. She says, I get left undelivered or ignored. Like, you couldn't even talk to me or FaceTime me. You literally said no. No response. She says, how do you think that shit made me feel? I don't even want to make you mad or argue. It just sucks. And I've been stressed AF today. I haven't stopped thinking. Dom says, well, I'm dealing with my own shit. Get off my ass. Dom said, that's what Dom said. Kenzie says, oh my God, that's not even the point, Dom. Never mind. I knew you wouldn't understand. No response. Kenzie says, I'm just saying I'm stressed out and I want to talk to you to get everything off my mind. I guess I'm going to just go to bed. I'll see you tomorrow, she says at 10:35 p.m. Good night, sad face. Dom says, good night, babe. I'm so sorry I didn't see this, he says at 12:23 midnight. She says, my dad just effed up my whole party. This is the next morning at 11:11 a.m. on July 22nd. She says, my dad just effed up my whole party. My mom was literally down to leave and shit. And then we tell my dad and he fucking says, if I have a party, he's not leaving. Like, WTF. So now we need to find an Airbnb. Dom says, that don't matter. Kenzie said, what doesn't matter? Question mark, question mark. Dom says, the house. Kenzie said, my dad said he would stay in the basement and doesn't care if we drink. But like, WTF. My mom was literally down. And why doesn't it matter? Kenzie, like, you don't pay the bills. Like, it's their house. You're underage. You shouldn't even be drinking anyways. Not that I'm judging her because I did it too, but like, it's besides the point. Like, it's their house. If I tried to kick my parents out of their house when I was 15 to get drunk and party, you know what my dad would say? He would fall over laughing. He'd be like, are you drunk or high, Melly? Like, what are you even asking? Like, you get out of my house. For real. Like, that's crazy. She says, and why doesn't it matter? Question mark. She says, what the hell? He doesn't respond. She says, so you stop talking mid-sentence and then you hang up on me? Oh, so you try to call him. She says, why have you been so mean the last couple of days? WTF happened? No response. I'm telling you, I'm upset about my birthday. Like, you shouldn't get mad. You never said listen. You never listen when I try to rant to you. Dom finally responds. You complain about the worst days ever or worst days ever this year when it's just some little thing that's barely a big deal at all. Kenzie says, not knowing what I'm doing for my birthday is a big deal to me. And you really don't know how stressful this is. Dom says, we can just go to 𝗠𝗲𝗵𝗊𝗀𝗆 again. Kenzie says, Dom, it would just be me and you if that's what we did. I have like no friends. I really wanted to have a big party for my 16th. Sad face. Kenzie, having a party and drinking with with people who don't even want to be your friends isn't going to make them your friend. Like, they just want to party. They don't want to be friends with you. Like, it's your personality, girl. Anyways, she says, I really wanted to have a big party for my 16th. Who would come if we went there? She removes an exclamation, questions her own message. She says, Dom. Dom says, everyone. Kenzie said, who's everyone? Dom says, my family, your family. Kenzie says, that does sound fun. That does sound fun. She says, I don't know what to do. Dom says, I don't know either. You decide. She says, I honestly don't want to be around my parents. I'm probably just mad right now, but thinking about 𝗠𝗲𝗵𝗆 with them makes me want to flip out right now. And when I said no one would come, I meant friends. Like, I have no friends that would come. She says, babe, why you decline but not text back? It's low-key rude. She removes an exclamation. Dom says, maybe because I'm in a rush looking for my keys. Kenzie said, that's all you had to say. Like, chill. Can you answer the questions when you get a sec, though? Dom says, well, you could have waited a second. Kenzie says, I waited like 10 minutes. Stop trying to argue with me. I don't want to have another day like yesterday. It really upset me. Also, can you text Kyle and figure out what time we're all going to meet up? And we need to figure out food, or we could just go shopping in PA. No answer. Babe? No answer. I got you 2 vape runs. He doesn't respond. For real? Don't ignore me now. Dom says, bet. Who? She says, Wyatt and maybe Gwen. Wyatt did. You can drop whenever. Guava ice puff. Gwen wants 3 puffs and she's going to hit me up when she wants. Can you call me though? She emphasizes her message. He doesn't respond. She says, oh my God, can you call me? No response. Like, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. What is going on? This shit isn't fair. He doesn't respond. You said quote unquote sorry to me like 30 times, question mark. And you only said leave you alone for a little. If you told me you need longer, obviously I would have left you alone longer, but you never did. Also, I told you that if you ever need anything, you can talk to me about it. I don't need you to take out your stress/anger on me either, especially when I'm stressed too. She loves her own message. I don't know why you keep picking fights. Dom finally responds at 2:52 p.m. I'm not. She said, you said none of this was about me, but you haven't been nice to me in 1 day. Sad face. I just want to talk to you and hang with you, baby. Babe, we need to figure out cabins ASAP too. He says, okay, I'll hit up Kyle in a little. Kenzie says, thank you. Dom says, okay, we can like in an hour or so. Me and Kyle are going to chill with Kyle tonight. What? She says, LOL, what? She questions his message. Oh, you going to other Kyle's tonight? She says, bruh. He doesn't respond. She said, Morgan's not getting tested because she has no symptoms. Dom said, that's fine. Kenzie says, Lexi, Devin, and Lainey all got tested today. She says, are we going at 4? When do I need to be ready? Or am I coming to your house first? Dom says, I don't know. No, I have to do more sales. Kenzie said, can I come with? I want to hang. Or scoop after. Or at 4:30. Dom doesn't respond. She says, OMFG. What the F is wrong with you? I literally do nothing. Dom said, what the F is wrong with you? Kenzie said, this shit isn't my fault. Dom says, now I don't even want to bring you to Kyle's. Kenzie says, WTF? I've been so nice to you when all you've been is a dick. It's like a constant cycle. What happens is that like she gets insecure and controlling and she's like monitoring him, stalking him, / harassing him. He doesn't respond. He doesn't give her the attention exactly when she wants. So she creates this fight. And then they just like fight all over again. Like it's like over and over and over. Natalie, now, yeah, Natalie and Steve, you should have got your daughter, okay? Where are the parents at here? She's a product of her crappy upbringing. Yeah. Hi, beautifully broken. Anyone else think Kenzie thought she would be closer to Dom by selling with him? Yeah. I don't like that though, because I feel like she was doing it too to try to blackmail him, you know? But remember in the calls, she's like, "Ah, I wouldn't do that. He made me carry for him. He made me have the stuff on me, on my person." She must have a different definition of nice. Yeah, exactly. She says, "I've been so nice to you when all you've been is a dick. Like, I do not deserve this. And I was the one who asked you to hit Kyle up. But of course, you're trying to leave me out." He doesn't respond. "Did you forget cabins is in 2 days and now we're missing 4 people and we don't have a food plan?" He doesn't respond. Like, how fucking rude. Like, I don't know how the F you do it every single time you make it my fault. Like, I'm not even being a bitch. You want me to leave you alone? Then you treat me like this? WTF happened? No response. Like, stop trying to argue with me. No response. She emphasizes all her messages. Oh, I have to sneeze. Oh my God, excuse me. I had to sneeze so bad. She emphasized all 3 of her messages. Dom says, "Text me one more time and I'm not going to cabins." Yeah, tell her to shut up. He never calls her any names, even when he is pissed. He just called her the B word the one time earlier. She says, Dom says, "Text me one more time. I'm not going to cabins." Kenzie says, "You're so fucked up for that. I literally can't believe you said that shit." Dom says, "You texted, your request will be filled." She says, "You are such a dick. What the F happened to you? Why did you treat me bad again today? Why can't you say this shit so easy when you know it hurts me?" No response. "You know, I've been looking forward to this trip, and if you do this to me, I don't know what I'm gonna do." Dom says, "Text me one more time, I'll actually not go." She dislikes his message. Dom said, "Don't do that either." And then he says, "Sorry I was being mean, but really just leave me alone for tonight." Looks like she did, because it jumps to the next day. He says, "Good morning, babe. What are you doing?" On July 23rd at 11:16 a.m. She says, "Hey, I'm just chilling right now. Shit went down with Lexi again." Dom said, "Like what?" Kenzie says, "I'd have to show you. She's such a bitch." Dom says, "We're linking up with Kyle soon." Kenzie said, "Yeah, I FaceTimed them. Lexi made Kristen cry." "When are we going?" Dom said, "I don't know. Before 4:30. Kenzie says, "Well, do you want to go soon? Or do you want to hang before we go?" Question mark? Dom says, "I'm cleaning and about to do laundry. Kenzie says, "Can I still come over? I can help you clean." Dom said, "I was gonna pick you up when I go to Kyle's." Kenzie said, "That's fine too. I was just saying I'd wanna have now. Also, please pack my green swimsuit." Dom says, "I just put it in the washer." "What are you gonna need that for?" Kenzie said, "The trip." Dom says, "On the way to pick you up at 12:40 PM." She says, "I wanna bring it to the cabins." Dom says, "I thought they didn't have a pool." Kenzie said, "We can still swim." Dom said, "Where?" He says, "Here, pretty much." She says, "Okay." She goes out there. Then she sends an address. She says, "What are you doing?" At 8:37 PM, so later that evening. She says, "Are you in the kitchen? Come in here." Dom says, "Come out here." Kenzie says, "Come over at 9." She says, "J.A. Lil in here." Not a lot, though. It's a little loud, though. Dom says, "Okay, bet." He says, go outside now. Can you hear? Oh, wait, it jumped to the next. Let me go back because it jumped to the next day. That's why I was confused. So the 23rd, he says, come out here at 8:37 p.m. And then it jumps to the 24th at 8:30 a.m. She says, come over at 9. She says, J.A. Lil in here. Not a lot, though. It's a little loud, though. Dom says, okay, bet. Go outside now. Then it jumps to 5:25 p.m. Can you hear it? She says, yup. Loud AF out here. Dom says, loud? She says, yeah. Dom says, come in here. She says, okay. I actually left you alone for a while and you're still sitting in there being a martyr. But it's so frustrating that you're taking it out on me. Okay, so where are they? Dom said, you way more of a martyr. You can't even let me chill for a little. Kenzie says, I'm out here trying to have fun. You're just sitting in there being mean every time I come in. Whatever, I don't care. Dom says, okay, well then don't come. Don't come in. Kenzie says that was at 7:51 p.m. and then it jumps to the 25th the next day in the evening at 4:27 p.m. Kristen is mad at Kyle right now. She's mad he came out. She says, get orange juice at 7:14 p.m. That was on the 25th. And then it jumps 2 days to the 27th. Because remember, these are the texts that the investigators wanted to use in the evidence package. So it jumps 2 days. Hit me up in the morning if you want to go get breakfast still, she says. She says, good night, baby. Oh, at midnight. He says, love you too, babe. I have sales and stuff and I'm super tired still. To be honest, we can go tomorrow morning, Dom says at 10:07 a.m. She said, okay, baby, that's fine. I just woke up. I'm trying to sleep more, to be honest. Dom says, yeah, I woke up at 8:30, so tired. After a good night's sleep tonight, I'll be back to normal. Kenzie says, I might shower right now, to be honest. I haven't washed my hair in a while. Dom says, I'm going to go give Joey some vapes soon. If only he didn't vape. Kenzie says, poor Joey. Dom says, I had a really good idea. Election masks, Joe Biden, Trump, or Joe Jorgensen. Kenzie says, that's a good idea. We can make hella money if we do that. Dom says, for real, we just got to figure it out. Kenzie says, I'll ask my mom. She says, what are you doing at 1:48 p.m.? I'm trying to figure out what day I should have my party. Dom says, stopped at Kyle's, probably about to go home soon. She says, what y'all doing? And will you help me find a good day to have my birthday? Because it's coming up in 5 days. Dom says, we smoked and I grabbed a couple things, about to leave. Do it a couple days after your birthday. Where you want to have the party? She says, my house, probably. Or if you can find a close Airbnb. I can't have it the 8th. That's Lexi's grad party. I feel like that's bitchy. Dom says, okay, we'll see. Kenzie sends sneaker links. She says, come to Kyle's after other Kyle's. We're going to be there. Dom says, okay, I'll probably do that. She says, okay, bet. She says, bring chips, salt and vinegar or cheese ones, please. She says, babe, at 9:28 p.m. She questions her message. When are you coming back, baby? Questions her message because he doesn't respond. He says, I don't know, for real. We all having fun. I will bring those when I come back. She says, who's all there? Dom says, me, Kyle, Connor, and Luis. She says, what if we pull up too, LMFAO? It's cool if not. Dom says, no, I don't think so. She says, that sounds fun to go. Dom said, it's N-word night, meaning it's like a bro night. Kenzie said, LMFAO, okay, baby, have fun. He says, okay, baby. She says, should I sleep over at Kristen's at 10:07 p.m.? I might go, and you and Kyle can have a sleepover too. Dom says, if you want to, I don't know if we'll end up having a sleepover. She says, LOL, I'm really tired right now. I want to cuddle. When are you coming here? Dom says, soon. It's already 11:26 p.m. She says, come. My hoodie smells like you, she says at 1:12 a.m. I love it, Dom says, cutie, the next morning on the 28th at 9:19 a.m. She says, good morning. I accidentally took that bud home. Not nearly she normally was. She should be focused on her mission. Yeah, stop talking, Mackenzie. Was she heavily intoxicated the night of the crash? Absolutely not. Nope. She just is evil. She says, I accidentally took that bud home. He says, what? Oh. He says, it wasn't much. You can keep it. She says, are you sure? She says, yeah, my room stank. That's gas. Dom says, yeah, I don't care. She says, LMAO. Okay, baby, how'd you sleep? At 10:15 a.m. He says, pretty good. She says, me too. She says, I'm still tired. I'm still tired somehow though. LMFAO. He says, just gotta catch up on sleep, probably. She says, probably, but I've been sleeping hella. Dom says, yee yee. She says, I'm watching Shameless. What are you doing now? He says, I'll FaceTime you in a sec. She says, okay. Then it jumps to 1:37 p.m. She's sending TikTok links. She says, babe, Kristen still hasn't answered. Sideways emoji. He says, about what? Just don't text her. Kenzie says, I'm bored. I thought we were chilling and now I have no plans. I think Michael just robbed Jaina. Never mind. He just fucked her over hard AF. Dom says, what did he do? We can chill later, babe, he says at 4:44 p.m. She says he told her on the way and she went to meet spot and she was there for 4 hours. She wants 2 carts from you. I'm also selling 2 right now. Dom says, nice. Kenzie said, send me vape prices. Dom sends her vape prices on a screenshot. He says, you can probably charge a little extra. He sends another screenshot. She said, thanks, baby. She says, you cut off the name. How much for X bar and hide curve? Never mind. 2 hide. Circle ones. She says, babe, answer. He says, 2 hides, 16 per bar. 2 hides is 16. Each bar is 13. What? 2 hides, 16. X bar, 13. X bar, 12, actually. She said, well, I got 20. Dom said, is it for you, babe? Don't be vaping, babe. She says, no. Gavin. He says, well, does he want 2 puff bars? She says, I gave him 2 hides for $20. The tube ones. Dom says, nice. She says, when are you coming home? I'm ready to come. He says, on the way. She says, okay, can I come over right now? He says, want me to scoop? She says, yes. He says, be there in 1 minute. And that's at 5:52. She says, okay, yay. Then I guess she goes over there and hangs out. And then she leaves. She says, where you at 1:05 a.m.? Are you good? Oh, wait, no, she's still there. She says, are you good? Lock the door, please, babe. She says at 1:56 a.m. Dom said, which one? She says, back door. Dom said, okay, it's locked. She says, also, I love you, babe. Text me when you go to bed. He says, okay, I'll FaceTime you soon. He says at 2, wait, is he there or is she home? Is she at his house or is she at home? Oh, so she's maybe, oh, I wonder if she went out the back door. He says, I'll FaceTime you soon. She says, okay. And that was at 2:06 in the morning. Then the next morning at 8:48, she says, breakfast? She says, babe. He says, hey, babe. She says, hey, baby, what are you doing? He says, tired as shit. We were up till 4. She says, damn, that's late AF. She says, well, did you get the whole room clean? Dom says, pretty much. She says, wow, that's crazy AF, to be honest. Dom said, everything in bags. Then we getting the bed and shit out. Kenzie says, damn, but that bong room is a cool ass idea, to be honest. Then she says at 11:09, want to go swimming somewhere today? Or canoeing at Wallace Lake or somewhere? I have canoes. He doesn't respond. She says, Dom, you and your family is invited to my birthday, August 2nd, Sunday at 6. Your mom can come and anyone in your family. Dom says, okay. She says, answer the other stuff, babe. Dom says, I don't know. I'm super tired right now. She said, oh, yeah, that's fine, baby. Then she says, Nat wants vapes and Phil. Dom says, okay, we can do them in a little. She says, okay, bet. How long should I tell her? He says, hour or less. She says, okay, bet. She says, I have another vape cell. Julian wants one now. 3 cells, babe. She says, which one has most hits? 4 now. 6 now. Dom says, nice. Give me some time. She says, okay, hit me up soon, babe. She emphasizes her message. He says at 1:26 p.m., okay, who all do we have and when we got to do it? She says, Natalie, Phil, Julian, Jacob. I need to go to your house so I can show them what vapes and how many hits they have. Dom says, okay, you want me to take you or are you doing it by yourself? She says, you. He says, okay. She says, can I come over? He says, yeah. She says, okay, I'm on my way. That's at 1:32 p.m. He says, I'm so mad. At 1:36, he says, I'm so mad, so don't bother me or try to touch me. She says, okay, babe. What the heck? That was at 1:36 p.m. Then it jumps to 9:59 p.m. So that night, she says, where you at? He says, how are you up? Oh, she sent an emoji at 5:12 in the morning. He says, how are you up? She says, I don't know. I could ask you the same. Dom says, just woke up. He says, cutie. He says, good night. She says, are you going back to sleep? I'm trying to right now. He says, yeah. She says, good night, my baby, at 5:15 a.m. She says, birthday is in 2 days. She says, on July 30th at 10:12 a.m. She says, OMG, I'm so pissed. We are not going to Lexi's grad party. Lexi is blocked. Dom says, why? She says, FaceTime me. Dom says, her and Sheen were just texting me. Kenzie said, I swear to God, we're not going. Sends a screenshot. Dom says, I'm at Trevor's at 1:09 p.m. She says, you see what Lexi posted? She posted the same thing you put on your story. Weird AF. Dom says, let me see. He says, oh, Joe Jorgensen? Kenzie said, on Insta. Dom said, question mark? Kenzie said, yes. I told her, Dom says. Kenzie said, I thought you hated her, LOL. Dom says, I really don't hate anyone. She said she tried to arrange cells so she could stick to him like glue. Yeah, I could see that lakeside. Hey, Q. You and your family is invited. Grab her. I know that bugged me too, but I wanted to read it just like she said. 𝗏𝗃𝗃 would melt in the rain. Natalie, does she get this from you? Is this how you treat your husband? Oh, yeah, good question. A prequel date, July 30th, shortly before. Yeah, exactly. She said, Dom says, I really don't hate anyone. Dom says, yeah, I think she uses people and don't like what she said to me, but I always just let that shit go. Kenzie says, yeah, I don't know if I can be cool with her anymore. Dom says, why? Kenzie said, everything since the cabins. Dom said, just block her and don't talk to them for a while. Kenzie said, that's what I did. Can you look for Airbnb when you have time? She says. Dom responds at 3:13 p.m. She said, you can go, just don't wear short shorts and a half shirt. Kenzie said, what? Oh, to the car? Dom says, yeah. She says, when you going? Because I'm wanting to give someone 2Gs real quick. What do I wear? I don't want your mom to be mad. Dom says, I don't know. I'm getting dressed. You'd have to be here ASAP too. Kenzie says, question mark, question mark. He says, what? She says, where you at? Oh, wait. So it jumps. So I think Miss Russo doesn't want her to wear a skirt and a half shirt. Is that who it is? I don't know. I'm getting dressed. You'd have to be. Let me go back. I don't know why it jumped. They must have talked on the phone. They must have talked on the phone. Doesn't want you to wear shorts and a half shirt. Well, yeah, because Kenzie's always like in a crop top. She says, I don't want your mom to be mad. He says, what? She says, where you at? Jumps to 7:43 p.m. She says, why aren't you coming in? I have to leave soon. Dom says, what time? She says, at 1. So come, please. Oh, okay. So now it's like 1 in the morning. She says, babe. And then it jumps to the next day. Oh no, it's still 1 in the morning. She says, good night, my baby. And then at 7:55 on the 31st, she says, there's a baby pig at the fair. Dom says, shut yo ass up, bitch. Kenzie says, WTF, question mark, question mark. Dom says, I'm kidding. Come give me a kissy at 9:43 a.m. That's kind of a messed up joke, but it's kind of funny. I wish my girls, dude, I would not. But crop tops weren't really, I don't think, a thing back in the day. Um, he says, I'm kidding, come give me a kissy. She says, oh, that was at 9:43 a.m. And then it jumps to the next day. The way she wears things, I know. Okay, let's keep going. I don't want to end it there. We'll go into August. Tomorrow's live, we'll just continue into August. She says, see you tomorrow. Good night, baby, at 2:03 a.m. She says, babe, on August 1st at 10:30 a.m. Dom says, wow, your present got canceled and refunded. Kenzie said, it's okay, babe. That's gay, though. Dom said, it's not okay. I'm mad. Kenzie says, sad face. Did it say why it was canceled? Dom says, no. Kenzie said, that's weird. I feel like they should tell you why. And also, don't forget about the nail thing at 12. I also left my bag at your house last night. LOL. She says, will you be ready by 11:40? He says, probably. I just got to get up and shit. She says, okay, bet. I'm ready whenever. Do you want me to come to your house or do you want to just get me before we go? Okay, that was at 11:20. She says, can I just come over? My family is annoying as shit. Dom says, yeah. She says, okay, bet. I'm going to come now. She says, now they can't change the time. You don't have to come if you're going to be busy. What's she talking about? She says, he doesn't respond. Then she says, what a great way to treat me. I don't know why you're acting like it's my fault. My mom made an appointment at 2. She told me yesterday, you just can't take your effing anger out on me. Like I literally told you I'm having a bad morning. Then I come here and you're mean AF for no reason. Like the fact that you just let me leave is so effed up. Like, are you even coming? Dom says, I'm not. You said the appointment was only for you. Kenzie says, no, I didn't. Like, did you even listen? Oh, so he was going to go with her to get a pedicure or something? He says, whatever, just go with Kristen. She says, wow, you're so effing mean. Dom said, I don't care. It's not a big deal. Kenzie says, like, I'm trying to effing leave, but you just keep making me cry. She says, it fucking is. This is for my birthday. And all you care about is you right now. You're really not able to go? You effing know how excited I was. Dom says, I don't know why you had to come here at 12 when you didn't have to. Then you start being a bitch about me wanting to go back to bed when I didn't have to get up yet. And then you expect to just chill with me all day. She says, you're literally rude as shit. You were the one who got mad. And I didn't start being a bitch ever. Me being upset is a lot different. And you seem to only care about your sleep right now. Dom said, okay, cool. Go get your nails done. She says, so you're not coming. You're going to be like that? Dom says, no, I don't want to go to dinner later either. Kenzie says, oh my God, you did not just say that. Effing answer right now. Dom says, I really don't want to go. She says, you're so fucking fake. I can't believe you said that. Wow. He says, okay, cool. If I'm fake, then drop me. Kenzie said, you can't do anything like that for me. I'm coming back. Dom says, no. She says, you want to start shit the day before my birthday? Dom says, you're not. She says, like, what the F is wrong with you? You know I was excited and you do this. You're being such a dick. I'm about to text your mom. He doesn't respond. She says, like, what the F did I do for you to do all of this? Effing nothing. Dom said, okay, cool. Text her. I really won't go. Kenzie says, you said you're not coming. And why the F are you threatening me? Dom said, I said I really don't want to go. Kenzie responds, if you don't come, that will show that you don't really care about me. Dom says, okay. She says, OMG, you are messed up. Like, I don't know what happened. Dom said, if that's what you think, then okay. Kenzie says, Dom, if you don't come, we're going to have serious issues. Serious AF. He doesn't respond. She says, the fact that you can even do this shows me you don't care. Like, if you really wanted to go, you would, and you wouldn't care that my mom told me the wrong time. I swear to God, it's always about you. Like, how the F do you think I feel right now? Answer me right now, she says. Dom says, okay, leave me alone. She says, N-word. He doesn't respond. She says, say something nice and then I will. Because you are coming to this fucking dinner. Like, you talk about being worried about my parents not liking you, then you say you're not coming. Like, what the F they gonna think about that? He doesn't respond. She says, I'm fucking walking home crying right now and you couldn't give a single shit. Dom says, all I did is want to go back to bed for a little. Kenzie said, and that's okay. I didn't really care about that at all. It's the fact how when I asked if I could stay, you got all mad for no fucking reason. Then I asked to stay in the living room and you told me I can walk home. Then you say you're not coming to the nail appointment or dinner. Dom says, no, that's not what happened at all. You said you have no ride. I said, you walked here, you can walk home. Kenzie says, yeah. And that's rude AF when I could have just chilled in your living room. Dom says, so yeah, don't try and twist the story in your head. Kenzie said, I'm not? ? You still said the nail thing. You still said the nail thing and the dinner thing. Dom says, okay. She says, which is fucked up. But you know how excited I was about the whole thing that you're going to ruin if you don't come and keep acting like this. Like, I've been crying this whole walk home and you don't care. Dom says, well, stop bothering me. I might go. She says, you are going. And I think I deserve an apology. He doesn't respond. She says, this is really disrespectful that you're saying you can't come to my family dinner. That's going to be less than 2 hours. It should be one of your top priorities. I don't give an F if you don't come to the nail appointment. Maddie's going to come if you don't. But dinner is so important to me, and you know that. Dinner should be important to you too. Dom emphasized his message. She emphasized her message. Dom says, would be hard to go if I was pissed off. So stop texting me or I'm going to mute you. She said, all right, Maddie's getting her nails done with me, but make it to my family dinner. I'm going to stop texting you. He says, I'd rather do that than go to dinner though. Kenzie said, on my life, why don't you want to be around my family? Dom says, this shit is so gay. Kenzie said, the only one making this gay is you. I love to be around your family, but I just feel like you have something against it. Dom says, no, I'm just mad now. I'm just not going to do anything. Kenzie says, Dom, if you don't come to dinner, it's going to kill me. It's okay if you don't come to the nail appointment. Like we were talking about dinner the other day and you were like, can we get high then smack dinner? Dom says, I'll go to dinner, but nothing else. Kenzie says, why? You're really hurting me, babe. Dom says, I don't know. I have problems. Kenzie says, this is all just really upsetting me. I can leave you alone till later if you want. Dom said, I said that earlier. He says, whatever, I'm done. Kenzie says, you replied to me though. Please just come to dinner. If you don't, I don't know what I'll do. She says, talk to you later. He emphasizes his message. He says, I don't feel right. I'm mad AF. And then at 1 p.m., he says, what's your Cash App? She says, why? I don't have a Cash App card. He says, so no one can Cash App you? She says, people can. I just need the card to take money out, I think. Dom says, how do you get the money? Kenzie says, they sent a card for free, but I don't know the last 4 of my social. I'm trying to get the card right now. It's being weird. Are you sure you don't want to come to the nail appointment today? She says. Dom says, maybe. She says, it's at 2, so you got to let me know soon. She says, I'm figuring out this cash app shit right now. Would Venmo work? Dom says, probably. Let me smoke and I'll probably want to go. She says, are you sure? Dom says, actually, I don't know because I can't see. He says, I appreciate you putting all my socks and tank tops on the floor last night. Kenzie said, what do you mean you can't see? And please don't try to argue, babe. Dom said, exactly what I said it means. I can't see. She says, why can't you see? What happened? Dom says, I tell you this all the time and you just say, what do you mean? Kenzie says, stop trying to fight with me. It's okay if you don't want to go. But if you do, you need to be ready soon. She says, do you want to come? She emphasizes her own message. We need to leave by 1:40, so please tell me if you're coming. Dom says, I don't know, I'm about to roll a blunt. She says, well, we can boon there if you want to go. She says, babe. He says, okay, let me roll it real quick. She says, so you want to come? He said, yeah, I'll come. I have nothing else to do anyways. Yeah, vacay. You're funny. I hope she enjoyed her 21st birthday in the slammer. Can you imagine? That sucks. Yeah, I know. I think he was trying to make her break up with him. He goes through these periods where he's like, I can't do it anymore. He wants nothing to do with her birthday dinner. Nothing. Nada. I know. He says, yeah, I'll come. I have nothing else to do anyways. She says, okay, yay. She says, do you want me to come over or are you going to scoop at 1:38 p.m.? She questions her on message. She says, babe. He says, doesn't matter. Excuse me. She says, okay, can I come over? Is that okay? He says, when do we have to leave? She says, or do you want to scoop? So I have like an itch in my throat. She constantly leaves messes in his house, and Dom is a neat freak. He takes his pride in his home. She says, or do you want to scoop? As soon as we can. The appointment's at 2. It's already 1:45. He says, where's the place? I still got to roll blunt. She said, by Chick-fil-A. It's like 5 to 10 minutes. I can't miss the appointment. They will give it to someone else. Dom says, okay, well, I can swoop or you can come. She says, I'm coming. Roll fast, LOL. And then she's now at the appointment. It's 2:51 p.m. And she says, I don't know why she used pink acrylic. Dom says, I think it'll look good. Probably to make your fingernail look nice and pink. Kenzie said, should I still get French tip? Dom says, yeah, probably. Or just leave it like pink. That would be cool. Kenzie said, I was thinking that maybe. Dom said, I kind of thought that because you always get French tip. And that was at 2:54 p.m. So they must have hung out, got their nails done together, etc. And then it jumps to 11:21 p.m. that night. She says, where did you go? He said, what's up at 1:08 a.m. She says, my mom is on the way. Oh. So her mom went to pick her up. She says the next morning at 9:55 a.m., babe, my mom just effed up my nail. I'm so pissed right now. Dom says, I don't know. She says, LOL, are you going to say happy birthday? Dom says, I said it last night. He says, pulling in at 10:29 a.m. She says, bet. So it's her birthday today. And they must have hung out. And she says, it jumps from 10:30 a.m. to 4:54 p.m. She says, babe, my mom said I could have cake, LOL. She says, came. Dom says, what? Kenzie said, like I could have came with you. Can I get dropped off there? Dom says, at my house? Question mark. She says, yes. Dom says, yeah, get dropped off. She says, bet. She says, never mind. Just come scoop. Never mind, LOL. Dom says, are you on the way? She says, not yet. About to leave right now. She says, are you out? She says, I'm on the way. He says, I'm about to get in. She says, okay, I'm on the way. He says, okay, hurry. She says, bet. She says, I'm close AF. LOL. He says, what? She says, what do you mean? He says, you put that emoji. She says, why aren't you talking to me at 7:53 p.m.? Why are you walking away every time I come by you? Why are you talking to that ugly ass bitch more than me? Like, it's my birthday. I'm not trying to cry again today. Dom says, what do you mean? You don't talk or talk to me. These are people I grew up with. Kenzie says, how can I talk to you when you walk away every time I get close to you? And how the F am I supposed to talk to these people that I don't even know? Like, you can introduce them to me, but no, you don't care. Dom said, well, that's why I didn't have it in mind that you come. She says, you're fucked up. I want to leave. I'm not having fun at all. You could have easily introduced me and shit, but you didn't. You just let me watch the whole time. Like, holy shit, it feels like you can't even try. Like, it's my birthday. Why are you being so mean? He says, I'm not, but okay, we'll leave soon. She says, yes, you are. Don't lie. You could have made this night a lot better, but you didn't. He doesn't respond. At 8:06, she says, I think we should leave now. She emphasizes her message. He says, okay, we'll leave soon. Kenzie says, you said that 10 minutes ago. He says, I know, but I don't want to leave early. I was late. Kenzie says, well, I'm mad AF now. I'm supposed to be happy today, but of course that didn't happen. Dom says, what do you mean? Today was all about you till like 6 o'clock. Then I'll be all about you till we get home. Like, I'm about to get you Gucci shoes. Kenzie said, that doesn't matter. You're being rude AF right now. The party could have been fun. You really didn't help. Like, when I came to the car upset, you could have came and fixed it, but you chose to just stand there. Like, Thomas was being nice to his girl. Why can't you be nice to me? She says, I want to leave by 8:30. And then she sends links to the Gucci shoes. She says, you good? Do you want me to stay out here at 9:43 p.m.? Or can I dip if you want to be alone? Or I can dip if you want to be alone. He says, yeah, stay out there. Oh, wait, it jumped to the next day. That's why I was confused. My bad. So her birthday night ended with I want to leave by 8:30. And then the next day on the 3rd, she's sending Gucci shoe links to him at 6:25 p.m. She says, you good? Do you want me to stay out here? Or I can dip if you want to be alone. He says, yeah, stay out there. She says, okay, baby, when are you coming back? He says, I don't know. She says, are you okay? I'm like tired AF right now. Are you sure you want me to not go home? Dom says, I don't care, whatever you want to do. At 10:08 p.m. Ooh. Stay, lie down, roll over. She needs to marinate for at least a couple of days. This girl, Gucci shoes. It's giving desperation. She's like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, yeah, it does matter. Those are expensive shoes. Take a hint. She says, let me see okay, I'll have a couple more. He says, I don't care, whatever you want to do. Then it jumps to the next morning at 11:01 a.m. on the 4th. Good morning. She says, I slept so long. Dom says, same. Kenzie says, I'm about to shower right now. What are you doing today? Dom said, I don't know, for real. She says, want to do something? Dom says, maybe. She says, what's a good place to get dope shoes? Dom said, like website or store? She says, store. My dad said he would get me some shoes. Also, my hair's curly AF right now. Dom said, like, you want new shoes or like retro shoes? Kenzie says, I don't know, just some nice ass shoes. She says, babe, what's the best place? He doesn't respond. She says, I want to show you something. Question mark, question mark. Can you tell me so I can go? Dom says, I like chili cakes. Sorry, I was on the phone, then I was rolling. She says, okay, bet, I'm going to go there. She says, and it's okay, baby. She says, I have a vape cell. Can you do it so I can get shoes? I don't know why that sent again, LMAO. Dom says, just hit me up after your shoes. She says, okay, bet. She says, I'm on the way to the place now. Dom says, yeah, they won't have all sizes though. It's like a hit or miss place. Just look for shoe stores around Cleveland. Kenzie says, okay, bet. She says, I have 2 vape cells too. What are more good shoe stores? She says, babe. Dom says, we went to Blueprint, but it's a rip. It's a rip. I don't know. You got to search them. Try Avalon Exchange. She says, baby, look at Snap. I need your opinion. Then she says at 5:35, want to hang when I'm home? Then I can do the sales. Dom says, I'm chilling with Blair. She says, well, can I come? LOL. He says, maybe. She says, I'm still getting that surprise for you. She says, on the way home. He doesn't respond. She says, can I go home first, then come? Dom says, maybe. She says, can I come over at 6:26 p.m.? He doesn't respond. She says, babe, at 7:01. He says, what? She said, would you let me go to your house and get some stuff? Oh, or might have a ride to my sales. I just need 8th. Dom says, who is your ride? Kenzie said, I didn't ask yet, but I'm selling her a vape though. Maris? Who's Maris? One of her friends. She says, I'm gonna ask her if she can drive me to a couple sales. Dom says, who? She says, Maris. Dom says, I don't know who that is. Kenzie said, she's friends with Maddie and Farron. She's in your grade. You met her before. Dom says, just do them later or tomorrow. Kenzie says, what are you doing tonight? Wait, he says, do them later or tomorrow at 7:03 p.m. Then Kenzie says, what are you doing tonight at 9:47 p.m.? She emphasizes her message. He doesn't text her back. She says, text me back at 9:54 p.m. People want bud and vapes. Dom says, I'm watching basketball right now. Kenzie said, so no? Question mark. Dom says, when would they want them? Kenzie says, I don't know. They said tonight. Dom says, who? Kenzie said, Reese and Logan. Reese always gets from us. Dom said, who's that? But okay, can I after basketball? Kenzie said, when's that? At 10:13 p.m. Dom said, I don't know. It's halftime now. Kenzie said, okay, bet. Let me know. Dom says, bet. She says, I'm going to be home soon. Dom says, what are you doing out right now? She says, I'm with Marissa. Oh, she calls Marissa Maris, not Maris. I got it now that I saw her full name. Marissa. Dom says, oh, okay. She said, when is the game over? Dom said, it's 3rd quarter. Kenzie said, how many minutes? Dom said, it's about to be 4th now. She says, for sure. Dom says, the game is about to end soon at 11:30 p.m. at night. Who do we need to go to? Kenzie said, okay, let me know. She says, oh, Reese and Logan. Dom says, where are they and what do they need? Kenzie said, a couple vapes and 2 grams. Dom says, who needs what? I'll probably do the vapes, not the 2 grams. Kenzie said, all right, bet. I'm going to buy I'll do banana ice, apple kiwi, blue slushy, C sticks, and then I have $16 left. Is there anything else I can buy? Like, what other stuff you got? That's what Reese said to me. And I'll tell Logan no. Dom says, just give her 2 other vapes or a Puff Plus or something. Kenzie says, bruh, never mind. People make me so mad. Dom says, she said she's not home. Like, then why the F you begged me for vape all day? It's okay. You can just come over then in a little. We can just smoke and relax. Kenzie says, okay, bet. She says, when should I go home? Dom says, what do you mean? Like after my house? Kenzie says, I can get dropped off at your house whenever. Dom says, oh yeah, okay, get dropped off soon. She says, okay, bet. How about 11:45? Dom says, yeah, leave in like 10 minutes. Kenzie says, okay, bet. He says, or just leave at 11:45. She says, okay, bet. And that's the end of the 4th. And we're going to end it there. We'll continue with the text message reading tomorrow. We're on August 5th. Wow, we're almost done with 2020. With 2020. It's 7:93. Okay, we're going to stop there. We're already a little bit over 2 hours. So, okay, bet. Okay, August 5th. Reese is a rather affluent name in my. I never heard her going to have a shower. I know. Oh, you never hear her. Is this shoe obsession typical or are they way into shoes? No, they're really, really into shoes. Such a pushover, and it ended up taking his life. Oh my gosh. If only she had boundaries, a story should not be a story. If only he would have just broke up with her for good. If she could have stayed away or got a restraining order, you know? Him. Here we go. She always wants something from here on out. I know. She totally uses him. This is, I think, they start hanging out more this year, but remember, 2020 is when it starts to really change. And I think we're getting close to that part. Gracias. No, thank you, Lakeside, for being here. We're almost 2.5 hours. Still hate her, says Evie. Me too. Me too. Anyways, shout out to you guys for hanging out, going through the text messages with me. Thank you to, oh, I didn't even see the messages. So thank you again, Tia, for the super. Anton says, Antonicus, if we're friends, you'll show this. Nope. 3 months. I feel like you've been a member for longer than that. And then the 199. Thank you, Anton, for the super chat. And thank you for being a member. Thank all of you. If I come back, I'll come back and you'll see the notification. If not, if I don't come back tonight, we're doing 𝗠𝗲𝗹𝗆𝗆's closing arguments bright and early in the morning. So put your alarm. I know, it's early. PST time is 7:30. I'm streaming during the live, so you guys better come watch with me. Hit the like. You're good. Thank you, Are You Barbie, for being here. She took advantage of his kindness. Yeah, she did, Alicia. She's a psychopath. Thanks, Taz Mom, for being here. Wavy, you're late, my love. It's really early. We gotta do it. Wait, do you want me to do later? No, we have to start right on time, Evie. Grab a cup of coffee. Thank you, Debbie. Love you. Thanks for being here. Bet Corey's biting her nails. Dude, I can't wait. How early? It's 7:30 a.m. my time. Are you Barbie? So that's Pacific. So I don't know what time zone you're in. How early? We're just doing Corey early because it's the end of the trial. They're doing closing arguments. So I need Red Bulls. Yeah, I want to do my Red Bulls after dark. I'm thinking about doing an after dark tonight. I am. So I need to go get Red Bulls and then maybe, oh, I'm EST. You're EST? So that would be, I have to Google. So that's 10:30 a.m. your time. Are you Barbie? 10:30 a.m. here. Okay, so you're the same. You're Eastern. Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. So I will see you. It's early for me because I'm PST. Probably be on Verdict Watch. Listen, we're gonna listen to closing arguments, and then I'm not gonna be on the whole time for Verdict Watch. Heck no. We'll have to figure it out tomorrow because I don't know how long they're gonna be on Verdict Watch. It's 5 a.m. Get some sleep, old days. I'll turn the bells on. Yes, please hit the like button. We will do Kenzie tomorrow. I had a day off with my family yesterday, but I did plan to do Kenzie. So depending on what happens with Corey, I can schedule a Kenzie live for tomorrow night. So make sure you turn your notifications on if you're into the readings. I also had a Sarah Boone live planned tonight, but we'll see. Keep your notifications on. Please tap that like button on your way out. It really helps push me in the channel into the algorithm, and I really appreciate you guys for being here. I was tripping when the defense said they did not put on a defense. I know. Wonder how long it will be. I've been waiting. I've been looking forward to it. Just remember, the totality of the abundant circumstantial evidence is persuasive. You are right, Lakeside. I got them on. Thanks, Melly. Thank you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to hit the like button, and I'll see you guys for 𝗠𝗲𝗹𝗆𝗆. And if I come back tonight, then I'll see you then. Shout out to you guys for hanging out for the last 2.5 hours. Bye.